You know how you know a lot about sound
Yep.
and oil?
Yep.
I know a lot about motorcycles. All of our sponsorships ran out, so there's really no reason for me to do this, and I should just go riding.
And they go, what were you saying? What were you thinking? And really, I like coming on the show.
I watch guys ride all the time, and they're rarely using what the bike is capable of delivering.
It makes my phone ring.
You know how much power a Husaberg 650 makes?
Not near enough. Not as much as a start.
Oh. Welcome. No technical difficulties to report at this moment. Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, show number 235. I know this. The only reason I know this is because when I was pushing before, it was 2, 3, 4. I thought, oh, that's nice. 2, 3, 4. So, Chris Reel, welcome to the show.
It's really good to be here.
Oh, you're gonna have to get closer to that microphone.
All right.
And we'll pull you in there. I'm checking your audio levels while we're doing this. Oh, I'm not seeing us. Wait a minute. I think I'm making noise. Let me go back to this one. Give us a mic check there.
Good afternoon. Good morning.
Okay, we're alive. Okay, so you just want to like really bark in that mic, and we should be all good. Chris from DPS Technical, and what you want to plug some more of your occupations?
Well, I'm Chris Reel, DPS Technical. We're a technical service provider within the motorcycle and power sports community, specializing in noise and regulatory compliance. Mostly we help sanctioning bodies and OEMs, but once in a while with my background, I'm able to, Jimmy asked me if I would like to come up, and I say absolutely, because there's always good questions and try to dispel some myths and make everybody go, what? So anyway, I'm glad to be here. And this is educational entertainment. It's not professional technical consulting. But we're going to have some fun tonight.
I always wonder why you would risk coming on this show.
It makes my phone ring, and they go, what were you saying? What were you thinking? And really, I like coming on the show because Jimmy and I go back to when we both had a sense of humor and some hair. And so,
you still have hair.
I still have hair. It's getting a little thinner, and but I enjoy being able to come on and answer some questions and visit with some old friends.
They're saying Logan looks old. I'm still trying to get Logan to come back in here. Everybody wonders what this thing is obstructing the view of my camera. Well, this is the first little bit of tequila that we are having had. We might have had a sip to get the show started. Clase Azul, and if you don't know, yeah, that's kind of important. Got to know that the bell's there. But we're gonna. It's a last show. Last night it seems like last night. Last show was a whiskey show. We had whiskey from Mexico, from America, and from Canada, and the Mexican whiskey was the best. And so that just points me in the other direction for when we, want to have a little bit of refreshments here. Of course, this is just water. But so we're going back to Mexico, and we're going to do a couple different tequilas tonight. But the most important thing is we're here to answer your motorcycle and motorcycle product related questions. Chris, being the prepared person that he is, had a bunch of suggested topics that we could hit, which was very nice of him because that allowed me to turn my brain off for the most part. And, we'll answer your questions in the chat, like right as they come up, which is pretty good. I'm going to make the Yamaha logo disappear. They got to re-up their sponsorship. I got to make a couple calls. We're you sponsors, by the way, that are flashing up on the screen back there. You're running on borrowed time. The invoicing hasn't occurred yet, so these episodes are definitely free. But if you don't like any of these companies, you can send me money. And if you send a lot of money, I will change their logo to your logo, and then I'll like whatever it is that much better because you know how I'm just a shill for my sponsors, Chris.
Well, you got to keep the lights on.
Somehow we're going to do that. And we have people in the chat asking me where I'm going to be at a certain location so I can put it out on the internets and everybody will know. And so, JB Black, I cannot help you with my location on Friday afternoon. I know why you're asking. I'm trying to get my other jobs done, but I think on Friday afternoon, kind of like every afternoon, I'd like to be riding my dirt bike. So good times. And Chris suggests this. He suggests a tip of the visor and a thumbs up with solid thank you to Malcolm Smith, Mary McGee, and also Dave Pickett. 3 legendary people who helped the motorcycle industry to levels that probably you can't really even quantify.
It's unprecedented how much of a contribution these folks made to our lifestyle, to our industry, and to our overall reputation to the rest of the world. And so, Malcolm, just a tremendous individual on so many levels, racer, businessman, overall good guy. Mary, absolutely a wonderful role model, an adventurous, groundbreaking lady. And Dave Pickett, people say, well, who is Dave Pickett? Dave Pickett basically started the government relations and District 36 legislative office up in California. And what those folks have done over the years have really put value to all motorcycle riders and helped keep things open. So these people have changed our lives, and we need to salute them. And I certainly value what they did for me and for the rest of the community.
Yeah, and probably, like I said, Dave Pickett is probably the least known of those for sure.
For sure.
And like a lot of the people in the government relations business, well, it's not much of a business. They don't make money at it in the level that Dave was doing it. He was working for District 36. Mm-hmm. And I remember that, and this is when I was just getting into off-road racing. It was about the time everything was really just getting shut down. I mean, we had these big desert protection bills going on, but District 36, especially because it was near the Bay Area and all these other things, they were having legal issue after legal issue after regulatory issue after that. And that's where, and he was a young man at that time. I was just a kid, but he was a young guy. And with him and there was a few other guys up there that were really fighting to keep these riding areas open to make it so that they could race because they were really struggling. There was a lot of, there's a lot less public land up there.
Yeah. And what District 36, by having their own legislative, office, that's funded by a modest contribution from all of the riders to make sure that generations to come have a place to ride. And Dave put together a solid program. Dave worked for many, many years as a district officer, and then, as time went on, he stepped aside. Don Amador filled the role for several years and did some amazing things. And now Ted Cabral has taken that position, and District 36, has to be commended for how influential they have been to North American off-highway motorcycling, whether it be competition or just general land use. They've put together a solid foundation, and they've had help from sponsors and stuff, but really it's their forward thinking from their entire organization. It's been, that's why Dave Pickett, in my opinion, is on the podium with Malcolm and Mary.
Yeah. And then for those that don't know, Mary McGee was Motorcycle Mary. Actually, just not too long ago, they have the teaser for her documentary that kind of came out, and they're the Motorcycle Mary documentary. And I met her I don't know how I got put in this panel, but it was for a adventure kind of ride up in Lake Tahoe, and I was sitting next to Mary and Mert Lawwell. Like I said, I don't know why I was there. I felt completely out of place because when I didn't really know a whole lot about Mary, and we started talking. She knew me from the Dakar racing and stuff, and we just started talking, and then she's telling me about racing the Baja 1000 solo and racing motocross and racing cars and racing with Steve McQueen and doing all the stories. And I'm like, I didn't want to talk anymore. I just wanted to listen to her tell me these. And she was such a happy-go-lucky, so go check out that, search Motorcycle Mary on your deals and check that out, because I think that's it's a really cool story. And then Malcolm, it just goes without saying.
Yeah, and some of our pioneers, when you get to understand who they are, who they were, what they did, so many different aspects it makes you want to be better, not just a better rider, but a better person. And that's where some of these people really, like I say, they've set the bar pretty high, and they've helped us all. So
yeah, I was privileged and really had a good time anytime I got to go riding with Malcolm. It was, especially when I was quite a bit younger, it was before he was actually sort of doing like commercialized trail rides. You'd hear people that would tell stories of being able to go ride with Malcolm. Yeah. And it inspired me. And people say, Jimmy, how come you're so mean? Because Malcolm used to take people on really gnarly trail rides. And to me, he was an old dude. I was just a kid. He was this older dude, but he could go gnarly places. And he saw that I fed off of that. I really liked it. So he'd tell me places he had ridden before. And I'm like, no way. And then you talk to somebody else. So, oh yeah, I went on that ride, and he took me on a couple of them, told me where a couple of them were. And I've been there. And, like some of the rides we did with Kenny Jones, cause he's like, oh yeah, Malcolm took me here when I was a kid, and we'd go. It wasn't really motorcycle riding. It's more like motorcycle. I don't even know what to call
motorcycle
it.
Portage.
Portage. Yeah. Yeah. So pretty cool. And I got to do a really cool story where at Cycle World, where we took some dual sport bikes and went with Malcolm Smith and Gary Jones and Daniel Laporte, and Kenny Jones went with us also to shoot it. But that to go do that, and then Malcolm talking about how he used to go down there to race, but when you would go down the race, he ended up just going trail riding, and that's how he found a lot of the places that he did, which is pretty cool. And now look at me. I'm like it's like I'm putting on races in places that I used to go, because I was like, oh, the race is why I have to be down here, but I'm down here for the riding, but not on the race course. So pretty cool. Yeah, Derek, you're right. Hearing this, he says, makes me think of the phrase "standing on the shoulders of giants," and yeah, it couldn't be more true. So, thanks everybody for joining in. Like we always tell you, you can leave questions and comments in the chat when we're live. Even if you do it afterwards, we usually kind of go back to some of those old questions and try to answer them up on the show. So if you have, especially like we said on our buffer for this on the Instagrams, if you want to know why your KTM 500 only makes 35 horsepower, Chris here not only causes that problem, he can answer it.
Yep. And when you get down to race bikes is one thing, off-road, recreational bikes is another, but then, you get to the street side, there are some things that have to be done to meet the global regulations, and also to get the durability, the lifespan of the vehicles. And so, if your bike comes with a little bit less power and crappy tires, and sometimes a little bit oddball gearing, that's on me. But you got a license plate out of it, And if
Yeah.
and if you decide you need some other settings or different tires, well, that one's on you. And so good luck with that. But
Well, the honest truth is as much as you understand the regulations, you know how to tune things to make them mostly sound compliant. And it's just funny because so many people, especially when you're kind of new and you haven't been around for a while, you wonder, well, if it's a 500, how come it only makes this much power? If it's a like the 250 race bike makes this, and this is, well, it's all emission. They always say it's all emissions.
Right. And, and people say, well, it's emissions. What is emissions? Well, we've got tailpipe emissions. That's the, that's the hydrocarbons that come out of the tailpipe. And then we've got evaporative emissions, and those are emissions that come out of the gas tank. And then we've got noise emissions, and that comes out of the tailpipe and other places on the motorcycle.
Comes out of the airbox.
It comes out of the airbox. It comes off the chain. It radiates through the skid plate. But without meeting the emission requirements, you don't get a street bike. You get a race bike. And so
we're gonna talk a little bit about that, some of the new regulation that's passed, especially in California. And everybody goes, well, why do we care how they do it in California? Because it bleeds. It bleeds to other states somehow. It
does. And California, we've got, I live in California, but I, serve customers globally. A lot of the California regulations are very, very similar to the European regulations. And so, we're trying to blend into kind of a global technical regulation, which will be some compromises a little bit on some things, but really I think looking into my crystal ball, I think we are in for an exciting time with some pretty new stuff. And even an emission controlled motorcycle is a pretty doggone good off-road recreational vehicle.
I'm here to tell you, I beat this drum all the time, that most people that are complaining about something, don't know what they're complaining about. That's the first problem. And the second thing, they hardly ever tried what it was. Because they have to go and remove the emissions delete before and it's like, what do you delete? What do you delete? And I'm not here going, oh, I'm all, a saint and don't ride, competition bikes and stuff, or don't modify my bikes that came as emission compliance bikes because I, decided I was going to take them and turn them into dirt bikes. When I'm riding my KTM 500 EXC down in Mexico, doesn't need to have the same requirements that I have up here. But it still has the reed valve in the intake track. Is there something wrong with me?
No, reed valve actually has some advantages. Pull that thing out.
So me, you, and Dave Arnold are the only three people in the world that I know of that say good things about that. Everybody else has to throw them. Hey, you heard of this guy named Ed Santon? Ed's going to be really bummed out because I'm not having a Peebs right now. I'm not having a Pabst Blue Ribbon, but I am going to drink out of a off-road Hall of Fame glass. We're going to try some Sincuro. This is here. Your job, the co-host. You talk more than most co-hosts, which is good, but you get to pour, and I will work on the questions here. So. Let's see. Chris is the doctor of my sound testy. This is true. Chris taught me how to do sound tests. I think I did the full certification once, and then I never re-upped it.
Well,
because I don't think I needed to. I learned how to do it properly, but I didn't need to be. I wasn't doing any certify kind of thing. That was a pretty good pour there. Did you slip?
Just a little. Well, that's the last one I'm counting.
Okay. Well, we got one. You're definitely going to want to try that last one. But anyhow, he's the doctor of my sound testy too. I use my ears more now than I use because I can. You're probably way better at this, but my ears can tell me whether a bike's loud or quiet.
Oh, absolutely. But when you say that's loud, well, loud is kind of subjective. But when you need to put a number on it, is it loud or is it legal? That's when. So when we're trying to say we got to be legal for an off-road event or legal for the street or 6 days, that's when you need to pull out the measuring devices and figure it out, with a measurement. And
this is important for regulation. So you can say that this is the number with the error factor of this to be, quote, legal.
True.
Yeah. So, of course, my ears. But it's funny. After playing with the sound meter, I heard motorcycles quite a bit different. From just different angles you can put it at and different things. And then we started learning there was bikes that could trick the sound meter because the sound was either deflected differently or resonating a little bit different. I always wonder how the KX450 could be the loudest bike on the track and the quietest one to the sound meter.
Well, there's some pretty clever folks out there that do engineered countermeasures, and the thing of it is not trying to be the bad guy, but I'd like everybody just to think about this: how many brand new racetracks have sprung up, and how many have we lost? And, that's one of the things that always comes up in a city plan. I did a thing out here for Jimmy and the Pahrump folk trying to do
we're trying to make one pop up and it's close to residential. And I'd even ask how many have popped up that are close to neighborhoods and stuff, it's kind of zero.
It's zero. And you say, well, it's a California thing or it's something, more often than not, when my phone rings and it's somebody trying to get a permit or is getting sued or has to go before the city council, more often than not, it's out of California.
Yeah.
Scott Summers rang me up this last year and says, hey, they won't let me have guys go trail riding on my property. And he's in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And he said, I just want to get insurance and let some guys come. And I thought I'd get a permit. And he says, boy, the sound thing's kind of a deal. I said, well, how close are your neighbors? He says, they're a half a mile. I said, if you don't run a quiet, an EPA or at least an AMA compliant exhaust system, your neighbors will hear you.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, your neighbors will hear every shift.
Yeah. So it's an interesting. It's like I said, sound thing's really interesting, and I've learned a lot. And I mean, it really, we can go, you can just get in arguments all day long with what people think about sound because people they hear their power, they don't feel their power, and that's it's proven to me because I've done tests where we have bikes that were louder that made less power, and people all said that the loud one made more power. And it has to do with how far they were turning the throttle. And a couple of things. We're going to jump into our chat here real quick. TW Hicks, with that lead in about street legal and global regs, can Joe Sixpack, who is happy to ride 2 times a month, can they really handle the 60 horsepower 450 500 class bike, or would they be better off banging their 39 horsepower off the limiter? Well, the reason they're banging it off the limiter is one of the tricks to lower the rev cut.
Right.
They'll lower they're lowering the peak.
Lower the peak RPM, the max rated RPM. They lower that down a little bit. But what the trade-off is, and if you study a dyno chart, and you look at what the torque curve is, horsepower you just brag about it. Torque you feel it, and torque hooks up. And so when you start looking at, if you're banging off the rev limiter,
you're generally less torque than you had
if you'd shifted.
Yeah, 2,000, 3,000 RPMs earlier.
Absolutely. And when you're banging off the rev limiter, you got wheel spin. It gets hard to handle that. If you go up a gear, you go faster. But
Yeah.
but you watch the flat track guys, and of course we're dirt bike tests, and everybody makes fun of the flat track guys. You watch the guys that really go fast flat tracking, and you listen to them and you go, that guy's just running in the torque curve. That's because he's hooking the rear wheel up and driving off the corner. And when you say, well, when he comes off the corner, some guys are revving. When can they pick up the front wheel? The guy that's shifting early picks up the front wheel 3-4 bike lengths sooner than the guy that's just all wheels spin and smoke. So,
Yeah.
But how much horsepower do we really need? That's sort of a personal preference, and it happens to
How much traction is there?
how much traction you have, and where is your talent?
Yeah. Yeah. I watch guys ride all the time, and they're rarely using what the bike is capable of delivering. And so there we go. And that's why you just have to, I don't know if they just want to just dump money into it, or it's just lemming line, and they're just lemming line right to desmog it, put an ECU on it. If it's a street legal one, cut the muffler off, or put a muffler on. It used to be cut the muffler off. Now it's just, the bigger the hole in the muffler, the faster it must be. And I learned, especially, early days, that's a real tunable piece, and you can really affect the way a bike runs and where the torque is. Like, I used to race 125s all the time, and my 125s were very, very fast because I felt them. I revved the crap out of them for sure, but it was, feeling it. Victor, you may know of Victor. He said, Victor. Taco Bell makes my emissions higher, and it's noisy too. Well,
just keep the windows down, buddy.
Victor, go get some cart tacos. None of the fab ones. Bobby Woldridge from Atlanta says, have you noticed intake reeds dusting the intake from reedware? Yeah, I've seen this. You've seen this before? It's kind of a brown dust that appears on the backside of the reed valves and on the intake track shortly after the reed valves on the KTM Husky gas offerings that are emissions compliant. What is that? Is it reedware?
Some of it's reedware, and that's also an indication, why the reeds are there is it keeps that pressure pulse from escaping backwards out through the air box. The pressure pulse being noise on one, or sound on one side, but it's also reverse gassing. So that dusting can be carbon. And it can be.
Yeah, I didn't think it was just reed, because I'm like looking at it, and it's kind of hard to wipe off. It doesn't just wipe. It's not like a dust where you can just wipe it off. You have to contact cleaner it and clean it. And so, it could be like just some of the contaminants from the gas, right? Some of the things from the fuel.
It's hydrocarbon, and whether it be gas or oil or some of the stuff in the fuel, that is a residue that very often we don't realize how much debris is coming through the.
And it would get it because of the reed, since the reed is stopping and basically stuffing the intake track. And this is why, if you think about it, everybody's like, it's just an emissions device. It's actually kind of, it's maybe the lightest of supercharging.
Well, what it's doing is
it's preventing the sound. It's preventing the wave from going back past that point. It shuts when the pressure, because the pressure goes back. It shuts just like a reed valve is supposed to, and it can't get past that. And so it basically builds up a charge of air that would normally escape, is sitting there ready to go again.
Yeah, it's what a reed valve is. It's a one-way valve, and so it keeps the flow going in instead of out and in and in and out and in and out. And when you have that pulse, you drop velocity, and so looking at what the reed valve does, you have contained air that is intended and it would like to go to the engine instead of getting shoved back out through the through the air cleaner or stopping the air flow. So the velocity actually increases at the port face with a reed.
Yeah. And the reed valve, that reed valve in the intake was originally designed to make better and more power, and it's nothing new. I mean, I know Honda had it in the old the RF radio 4 valve combustion RFVC heads. The early XR500s, the ones with 2 carburetors, when they were trying to make 4-strokes work.
350, that's 350 kicks.
Yeah. So, and I think even before that, there was some European bikes that had a reed valve in a 4-stroke. I mean, I think super early, I went to the what's the Cannonball, the motorcycle Cannonball with those old bikes. There was some of those that had some pretty interesting technology. You're like, holy crap, they did this back in 1932.
Oh, it's not new. And the thing with a reed valve is it kind of lets you run a larger carburetor or larger throttle body, so that when the reed is open, you can really pull some big air in. But we've all played with too big a carburetor, and you get a lot of volume, but you get no velocity, and it just kills the power until you get way up on top.
And to speak to the reed that's in like the KTM specifically, it's small, so it is a limiting. It does, and I will not argue this. It does limit from, in my world, a little bit past half throttle up. You can feel it choking it down.
Yeah, it's a restrictor.
But I think about how much I'm riding there as opposed to how much I'm riding, for the first half throttle, where it, to me, gives better throttle response and better torque, which is kind of what we were talking about earlier. And I want to get, there's some bigger ones. Somebody has some bigger ones, and I want to get my hands on one of those to actually test it and try it. Because I did ride with one. Like the very first time I wasn't told what it was. It was like, here, go ride this. And I came back and I said, this is crazy. Like, this thing's doing something. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't figure it out because it looked like a completely stock bike. All there was is a reed in the intake track, and you couldn't hear it. The sound, especially the airbox noise, couldn't, that was gone. But I'm like, why is this thing pulling so hard? And I was thinking that there was, when I got off that bike, I'm like going, there's some sort of variable cam timing in this thing. That was the first.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought of. It was either some kind of weird ignition mapping or but I looked at the motor, and I got off the bike and I did a quick check. Because I wasn't told anything about what it was. I did a quick check. I did look around. I'm like, I can't see it.
Well, not to let the cat out of the bag, but there's a cat running around here. One of the things that I just put into my testing equipment inventory is a really nice flow bench.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not developing exhaust pipes. So if that tells you where the future is, I think we can get the best of both worlds, but we've got to do some development, we got to do some trying, and then we got.
Where are you on hybrid?
I am over the moon on that. I think hybrid is the answer.
Can you package it on a motorcycle?
I don't know. Ask Kawasaki. They got one running around.
Yeah. So this is the question. And by the way, if you listened to us last week, Colin from Dust was on. We were talking about electric bikes because he's from Dust Moto. They make an electric bike. They did release their information on they're calling it, and I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to the screen that's supposed to show it. Remember, I renamed it. What did I rename that screen? It's web screen right there. Here it is. So I pulled it up on the screen. It's called the Hightail, and they're claiming it is going to be the funnest bike ever made. You can pre-order them. So this is what the information that we couldn't talk about. It's 42 horsepower, 60 660 Newton meters of wheel torque and less than 100 kilograms of weight. So 4.4 kilowatt battery, and we're kind of scrolling through their website, and this is what we were talking about. So they're available for pre-order. You can, according to the thing, you can join the fun. $100 refundable deposit can reserve yours, and they've kind of been pretty big on the crowdfunding, crowdsourcing to get this thing going. So that's what this looks like. A mid-sized bike, we called it. It's a mid-sized bike with capable suspension. You know, it's not like a mid-sized bike with boingers. It looks like it's got some stuff on it. So yeah, that's what we were trying to talk about, but we couldn't say, so it was early in the thing. But interesting, a little bit like the Stark kind of program, but Stark came out and said right away 80 horsepower, instant charging. We're going to have it available next week. I was blown away that they actually delivered bikes, because a lot of the claims were just outrageous, but they delivered on 70% of their claims, which I thought was really good.
Well, they're clever individuals, and technology is going forward at such a fast pace. We're going to see a lot of different offerings, and the high horsepower, high torque, faster charging electrics are they'll get there.
If you can, like I said, if you can, I mean, you think about the weakness. If you could, well, it's like the hybrid, like the Formula One cars. I mean, the Formula One cars are crazy complex and stuff, but you think about how they're using the electric to keep the turbo spun up to fill the power where the motor, that way they can optimize the motor to run in a just certain range, and then you can use the electric to boost it. Maybe it gets a little bit too crazy complex, when we kind of like some things that are really simple, but I don't know. I think every time they come out with new regulations, the fear in me goes, it's going to kill it, but we figure out a way to make it work. And sometimes these regulations say, oh my gosh, they just popped up. No, in reality, the regulations have been negotiated and worked on for 4 or 5 years in advance with a lot of different stakeholders trying to meet the targets with product, and at the end of the day, usually the regulations spur some real creativity, which makes things really interesting. And so, I make my living over there, with a regulatory soup. But when I look at how good the motorcycles are, and pretty affordable, how fast they've evolved, with the technology, and some of it's regulation driven, some of it's knowledge, and I go, man, a 5-year gap on technology on motorcycles, the dirt bikes in Jimmy's inventory and my inventory, a 5-year gap between, something that's 5 years old, that's she's getting a little long in the tooth. You go back 10 years and say, man, people used to ride these things, and and when I'm feeling, I was retapping the muffler bolts on a 12-year-old bike today, because I've had the muffler on and off, and I do a lot of different stuff with it. Muffler on and off that thing so many times. I just finally, and it'd been thread serted helicoil on stuff, and I just said, you know what? It's going to a 8mm bolt now. Yeah. I'm just upping the size, but I mean, it's amazing how good that bike is as well. I mean, it just in grand scheme, and to think it was that good back then, and then how, somebody asked a question a couple weeks ago, and I actually want to do just a kind of one-off question with this guy. He was asking about, hey, which Yamaha should I get? By the way, Yamaha, big supporter of the show. That's the only reason we talk nice about them, right? Wait, I raced a Yamaha. I rode a YZ250FX at a Grand Prix at Mesquite. And it was the most diverse track I've ever ridden. It was like hard pack with ruts, and then it was moist with ruts, and then it went to super gnarly blow sand that was dry, and then it was wet sand like in a river bottom, and then there was cobbly gravel. It was crazy. And I rode my YZ125 for 2 stints. I rode a Beta 300, and then I rode a YZ250FX that was basically stock. I did a map, and it had a FMFQ on it because it makes the power better. And that bike was so insane. It was so awesome. And then you go, well, guess what, Jimmy? The YZ125 is kind of a motocross bike, not made for that. The Beta 300 wasn't set up for me, even though it is an off-road bike. Actually, it was the off-road one, not set up for me. YZ250 was box stock suspension, and it was perfect. It was the best bike. So awesome. And you go, oh, guess what? That's what they designed it for. Amazing.
Yeah, and you have an FMFQ on there, and that's uniform back pressure, which helps the torque, which helps
longer pull,
a longer pull, and longer pull, less wheel spin.
And for me, longer pull means that at the end of the power band, it doesn't sign off as hard or as quick. And it's not as critical for me to make my shift. So it's actually making power, good power for a little bit longer. And I have a wider zone to make my shift. And 250F, you're going to be doing a lot of shifting. But to roll it back to the thing is this guy, he said, hey, I want to get this new Yamaha. He goes, and he's coming off of 2009. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be so much better. I mean, just the I say there's like for most people, a 3-year noticeable if you're going from the same model. Every 3 years, there's something you're going to pick up on that's pretty substantial. But when you go 4, 5, 6, years, it's a big jump. And so now's the time to buy. Well, a lot of inventory. But
generations on the vehicles, you typically you have a 3-year a 3-year platform, and then the next gen has taken a step that refined out some of the some of the things they learned. But then when you go 2 generations, 6 years, 7 years, what a change. And it's an exciting time to ride a motorcycle. And if you ever want to really get a reality check, ride something that's 20 or 25 years old, and just go out and plunk it, and you go, man, what a change.
Mostly the brakes.
Oh yeah.
Mostly that's the one thing every time. And when I had to go back and when I was at Cycle World, I have to go race someone's vintage bike. Like, I'm just like, oh, they had no problem making power. And the power was a lot of power, maybe not delivered properly, but there was no lack of power. But these things just didn't, well, first of all, they didn't stop. Handling was, well, I mean, for the time, I guess it was like, I don't know, but it's just everything's getting so fine tuned. And even some of these generation changes, we're talking about 3-year jumps. You may be on your old one and you get a new one. It's not as good, or you don't like it as much because it's a change. And then we have a good question. Troy asked that I'm going to get here because he's trying to stump us. But they make changes, and it's just like if they go into a different flavor, or it's an evolution, and that evolution may not be right for you because you're so comfortable on what you had. You may not like the direction of change, and this definitely happens all the time with racers. And so here's to Troy's question: if tech is moving forward so fast, why is Star Yamaha running 2017 swing arms on their 2025 team bikes? I don't know where he gets his information from. I don't know that and here's the thing. I know almost every manufacturer at the highest level, if the swing arms have the same mounting holes and stuff like that, they tend to switch them around and change them. And a lot of it has to do with rigidity. A lot of it has to do with length. I know, for instance, this is kind of common knowledge, that there was a time when Honda was running all different kinds of swing arms, and they were old, older ones, and because it's part of the production rule, you have to use a production part. But I don't know that they can they run a 2017 swing arm? Is there if a former,
if it's a elongated
former part,
and it is a replacement, and you can switch some things. You can switch some things around. The big thing is being able to use an OE part or something that's been previously approved. As long as you don't really change the geometry too much of the vehicle, then you're then it's pretty much okay. And the swing arm, a lot of times the swing arm provides some flex or some rigidity or like you say, different length. And when you change the wheelbase on a motorcycle, it's at the high level, it really changes the dynamic handling.
Yeah, that's why there's offset, headset bearings, and they've also used different engine mounts to move the position of the engine around in the frame. And I will tell you that when they do production testing, they try all of these things, but when they start going, okay, what's the best package? It's not that. It's you can't. Troy, if you went and took your 2025 Yamaha and threw that 2017 swing arm on it, it's not going to make it better. It will make it different. Better for everybody. It may make it better for you and for Star Racing, but it's going to make, and I don't know what the difference is. And if it's something, and at the highest level, when you get to these guys, you're dealing with a bunch of head cases. And I promise you that if you told one of these guys that the guy that was beating him had a 2019 swing arm and it was exactly the same as the 17, if he didn't get the 19 and he got the 17, he would think his bike was worse, and then he would perform worse.
Yeah, the head game thing, and you're really sorting out a vehicle with how an individual wants it to feel and handle. That's kind of a personal preference, and then at the high end, when you see somebody's able to go faster than you and he's got a different setup, I mean, whether it be ape hanger handlebars or different foot pegs or different swing arm, he's like, man, he's doing something that I'm not doing, so I'm going to try what he's doing. And
yeah, you just start end up chasing stuff like that, and it even happens that during production testing when you're trying to figure out what's the best for everybody. That's why you have a group of guys. That's why generally when you're testing this stuff, you're not really allowed to talk to the other guys. Half the time you're not really seeing you don't even know exactly what you're testing sometimes. It's just like, is this better? And you have guys that have high levels of feel and they can try things, and that's why sometimes you also need, and with racers, it would be a stopwatch. That would be the quantitative number, just like when we're talking about sound, you need to test the decibels. There has to be something at some point, but it's and I have certain traits or characteristics that I like, and I know for a fact that some of the things that I like are definitely what doesn't sell. Like if you said this bike has this characteristic and this trait and this and that, those are not, we'll call them, they don't have a lot of showroom bounce. But almost any time someone rides my bike and they have an open mind about it, they're like, holy crap, that actually kind of like works. Or I get what you're, I get what you're trying to do here, or what you've done, kind of a thing. And Troy says, but you have said you feel similar things on bikes you ride. I feel, I'm a one-click suspension tune guy, which actually half click. I got to half click for a while. One fork leg, just one click on one fork leg, depending on the brand of forks for sure. But yeah, that's and he also mentioned that a Gen 1 CR450X just finished in the winning slots in the Baja 1000. Not surprised. Have you seen the guys that ride the Baja 1000? You could put them on almost anything. I've heard their bikes, and it's like, oh, you tuned that? They make a lot of noise, and they sputter, and they pop, and it's like, you'd be better off on a stalker. But no, in Gen 1 CR450X, that's like be going between current and the earlier CR450X. Those are two distinctly different flavors of motorcycle, and one is definitely more stable and definitely more planted, and the other one is definitely more agile and definitely handles a little sharper. And I like the latter. But I never really liked the old CR450X, the one that everybody likes. Like I said, I don't sell showroom bounce.
Yeah, the first generations on something, they have some traits, and as time goes on, you look at the newer platforms. It seems like a lot of the bikes have gotten a lot more racy and more nimble and sometimes that's really good, and sometimes it doesn't fit. If it's a purpose-built motorcycle, the Baja bike, taking a motocrosser, down to Baja, they're going to beat you up. But you start setting up the chassis for that those kind of speeds and that kind of terrain. That's almost a purpose-built vehicle.
So I came from XR650 times, XR600 to be honest with you, and then into XR650, and so that's what I felt. So I like the old stable, heavy plowing into stuff, just torquey bike. And then 450X came along, and I didn't like it, especially for going Baja speeds. I didn't really like it, but it wasn't as rough. And then as things started changing, you needed that more kind of stability, that kind of like you say, at that time, racy, because that you went from a kind of trail bike that was being raced in Baja to a motocross bike that was being raced in Baja. And we were racing against KX500s, which you say what you want about KX500 being a racy motocross bike. It was at the time, but you start looking at just the trends and things, and then I just leaped to the complete other side, and now I prefer that more racy feel over what now kind of seems like the planted feel. And I don't know. I mean, you can change. you
can change, and and it really depends on what kind of riding you do.
Yep. Yeah. What it's for and how it's starting to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to our questions from the YouTubes. So if you have watched any of the videos over at Dirt Bike Test YouTube studio, Chris, can you read those? Can you read these?
Yeah,
you can read these questions. So I'm going to have you read the questions. I can answer 9 out of 10 of these without referring to a reference manual. And I will turn it over to you because I've got something that I've got to take care of right here. You just saw that on the show. So what's our first question there from KC Images?
KC Images, KDX 220 replacement.
And so he's asking about that on our 2024 KTM 150 XCW first ride. He's checking that out. I would say yes, because KDX here we're going for that's a big change.
Big change.
KDX 220, which believe it or not is slower than the KDX 200. You remember these?
Yep.
Because KDX had KDX 220. What did it have? Lower exhaust height.
Yeah, it was more torquey.
It was meant to be the torquey one, and because I raced a KDX 200 for a long time. Yeah, the 150 is probably more power, way more race inspired suspension. Racy. It would be the racy bike. So the answer is yes, it's a replacement. Almost anything's a KDX 220 replacement because how old is that bike?
Okay. Next question up is from
at JI 3946.
Yeah. Ride a T7 for a month, then hop to the PR7 and see if you complain about the weight.
Well, I guess what? I do that. I did that. Well, I don't have the PR7 went back. And so it was on our AJP PR7 riding impression. It's funny, I compared that to an XR650. So everybody goes, how do you know about all these bikes? Well, because I own half of them and the other half I ride. Or I've ridden, or I've ridden a lot of motorcycles. I'm like, you know how you know a lot about sound?
Yep.
And oil?
Yep.
I know a lot about motorcycles, from the hand on the throttle to the ass on the seat. That's me. So I've done that. I wonder if I complained about the weight? Because you know why I make the videos, Chris?
So people can see what you said at the time you were writing them.
It's so I don't have to remember what I said. So I probably complained about the weight of the PR7. I think I for sure complained about the scale weight. It's a heavy bike. I think I also said that it masks it well, but I did complain about it for being a big single. I probably, I don't know about complained, but yeah, I've ridden a T7 for like a couple of years. So, and John Jackson said he was bummed he missed this show live. And that was Tech Talk Taco Tuesday number 234. Hopefully he watched on one of the mini podcasting platforms. So he just held his phone, even though it was making noise, and watched it like that. Or maybe he listened to it on YouTube when it was up on his screen, and maybe had it going on in the background in his office while he was supposed to be working. And then he listened to it there. So that's what I would do. What does Charlie Tuna 1971 say?
This is better yet, bring it back as a 350R or a 400R.
Oh, he's telling Yamaha to bring back the WR250R. Remember that one?
Oh, I remember that.
That was a weird bike. I don't know. And so we're talking about in our video, is the Yamaha XT250 a real dual sport bike? And we asked that question because Trevor was trying to make clickbait, and then he figured that would work, which it did, because you watched the video, Charlie Tuna. And the WR250R, I didn't like that one for some reason, because it was like kind of a road racy kind of 250F. It was pretty. I thought it was pretty like revvy. Like you really had to. I kind of had to rev it a lot. Didn't have a lot of torque.
The GNCC bike.
Well, no, you're thinking of the WR250R was the dual sport one. Metal tank. It wasn't GNCC. You're thinking of the not the YZ based WR. So
I'm thinking of the.
It was that weird middle of the road one. It had its own motor, a liquid cooled motor, like high durability, big, heavy motor. And I had a couple friends that had them, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't," because like I said, they were pretty corked up, and there wasn't a lot of parts available for them. And I think that was one. It's probably like a cult bike. It was a weird, but yeah, if Yamaha made a 350, especially with the current engine configuration, or a 400, or even a 450 that was street legal, like a CRFL or a KTM EXC, it would be a really good bike, because they just make really good bikes. I don't know why they don't do it. I think that Yamaha looks at our current set of regulations and just says, this won't fit. And that's why they built that WR250R, because that was built to the regulations. And we're talking worldwide here, guys. You're not just going to build a bike for the United States. You have to sell it everywhere.
Yeah. And when, the regulations, when you get into a whole different, we call it engine family, when you go from a 250, and you change it drastically to a 350 or 400 or 450 or 421 or whatever it is, it gets very complicated as far as all of your durability stuff, and there's not a lot of interchangeability. So you get into an entirely new development cycle, and it's expensive and it's time consuming. So as much as you'd like to have a size for everything, for every rider. Some things just kind of don't fit for global production. And other countries, very often, there's a speed or an engine displacement ceiling for tiered licensing. So looking at that as part of it, that also plays into the equation on what do we get.
Yeah, I know for sure in Japan, it's a big deal if you have an above 250cc motorcycle. And where's Yamaha from? Japan. So there's probably some we're going to take care of the homeland first. But yeah, it's very rare like that a company would take a similar, like let's talk about KTM RFS motors. The same motor that was the 525 was the 250. As far as the bottom end and everything, they were just slapping different cranks in there, slightly different cylinders, and stacking the stuff on top. And so it's really like that was a Husky and a Husaberg thing also, that they were able to just kind of have a uniplatform engine and get away with a lot of stuff, but they definitely weren't having to meet all the requirements and stuff that we have to today. And if you took a KTM 500 and downsized it to a 250, it'd be an overweight, heavy. I mean, you look at how shrink wrapped everything is.
Yeah,
it wouldn't exactly work. So, Charles Clapper, 8982, he's talking about our 2025 Honda CRF 250 Works Edition. What does he say?
This bike has best bottom to mid, but no over rev, in my opinion.
I haven't ridden that bike, so I can't tell you. Yeah. That's surprising that it doesn't have over rev. It's funny what people consider over rev. So over rev to me is when you've hit peak power at whatever RPM that is, and then as you increase RPM, it tapers off. That's the over rev zone.
True.
That's a factual, that's a good assessment of where over rev is.
Yeah, it just because it's the engine speed is up, it doesn't necessarily mean it's making more power. And when you get to the over rev side, you're just spinning the engine. You're not making much more peak horsepower. Peak horsepower is typically a long time ago, and you're well past the torque curve. So
yeah, the torque curve typically falls off before peak power. It starts falling. It depends. I've ridden some bikes that make peak torque. Well, the torque is climbing all the way into peak power. It like the Triumph 450 that we just rode. It was amazing how flat that torque curve was, and I think this is something that the smart manufacturers are really working towards. It's maybe not the most exciting power band. Maybe it doesn't feel the fastest, but when it doesn't feel the fastest in that you don't feel this big increase in what we consider power. It just pulls, which is kind of what you want a bike to do. It doesn't matter what it sounds like. It doesn't matter what it's doing. It just pulls. And let's just talk about like the Stark. They have the 80 horsepower mode, and people say it's unrideable because it just pulls. And I don't know where they're getting 80 horsepower out of it, because I bet you the torque curve, because wouldn't technically the way electric motors work, couldn't it get it like at 5 RPM?
Yeah, torque, the torque curve on an electric is fairly linear, and it comes in very, very soon. And with the Stark as an example, how that is going to feel, it's going to feel what I call scary fast. You don't shift, you just pull, and that's going to maximize traction. And there's quite a bit of debate over what that's going to do to shared racetracks. I mean, it's going to be able to do some things in places that the ICE motor just doesn't do. And so jump faces and the launch on something with that much instant on demand torque, it's going to change the riding line and the airtime and
All
and
kinds of stuff.
all kinds of things.
just like four strokes did.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's just the next evolution.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to try to get young Trevor on the line here. See if this works. You might want to put your headphones on for this here. Let's see if this guy, he has no idea we're calling him right now, but I got some issues to work out. You should really get Trevor Hunter. You're live on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday.
Is this where I get shamed?
No, here, hold on a second, Trevor. Matthew Dittrich 2976 says, he's talking about your conquering the Big Bear hard run. Clearly, you two are very talented riders, and I'm glad to see that you can take a basic bike and show how capable the product is for most people out there in the real world with limited skills. I can see if I want to explore with a dual sport, I can get these basic bikes and have a good time. Just wanted to call and tell you that, Trevor.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, yeah. How come Dirt Bike Test on the webs is down and it makes a white screen? That's what I want to know.
I think the information we're putting up is so good that the internet's can't handle it.
Oh, you mean our million daily views? Kind of like, I mean, if Amazon were down, the guy who was in charge, and if you were part of Amazon, you would probably be losing your job right now. You can't be down, especially on Cyber Monday. Everybody probably wanted to go to Dirt Bike Test to see which bike they should buy.
Buy Yamaha, right?
Right,
That's
yeah, Yamaha,
something.
big sponsor of the show. Blue Crew, did you race the Yamaha this weekend?
I didn't race anything this weekend, but
Did you ride a Yamaha?
I think I think so. I can't remember.
You're like me. You can't remember what you rode.
I can't remember what I've done.
Well, so tell everybody when you're going to have, because people are emailing me constantly wanting. First they're telling me the site's dead, and then I go, well, that's a Trevor problem. So maybe you should email Trevor. So tomorrow I start giving out your email address.
Well, I think the plan is we're trying to build like anticipation, and so everyone will just hit the site all at once, and there'll be so much new content just waiting on there. That I think that's our plan.
That's your plan.
That's how we built. That's how we get more viewers, and yeah.
My plan was to it would be magic. The internets would just always work, and the Dirt Bike Test would be up and running all the time. I have some stuff I want to put up there, but I mean, I can still put it up there, but just nobody can see it.
I have some stuff I need to put up. I haven't actually gotten it done yet, so it's
okay, yeah, it sounds familiar. We have a guy that says that he thinks that the CRF, the Honda CRF 250R Works Edition. Uh-oh, I lost you. Your phone died. He hung up on me is what he really did. He's good at doing that. Your phone die?
Yeah, just like the website.
Yeah. We have a guy complaining, says the CRF 250R Works Edition has good bottom but no over rev.
The Works Edition?
Yeah.
It doesn't have the best over rev, but
okay.
I wouldn't say it has none.
How come you didn't reply to him on the YouTubes? Because I couldn't answer this question. I haven't ridden the bike.
When was that comment?
2 days ago. Were you on vacation over the holidays?
I was riding motorcycles.
Good. Yeah, you're learning good. And then in a 2024 YZ250F setup video, Tom Van Hees Wicked 5560 says, put a 5.0 spring in the forks.
Yeah, that actually could probably help it.
Okay, you
From what I remember.
should probably reply to him and then offer him a job as a test rider, and then ask him how quickly after he does the modifications can he get the story up, and does he have any programming experience? That's what I would
Exactly.
put in the questions.
If he can code a website, then he's hired.
Kent Wood Warrior 3 days ago said the KLX is superior to the CRF. He's talking about your dual sport shootout. And he says he had both for an extensive time, both on and off road. With that said, the DRZ4, basically talking about the DRZ 400, will outsell both quickly and easily if they don't bump up the power. How do you respond?
She said what?
Yeah, so that's okay. I'll type that in for you.
The KLX is superior to CRF.
Well, you should tell Kent that he needs to start up a site called woodwarriortests.com, and then he should put his impression up, and then his site will go down and he'll be missing thousands of views. Or if he would have put it up yesterday, everybody could go there to get the real information. Yeah.
I don't know if the KLX is superior to the CRF though.
What did your shootout say? I would have liked to have watched or read it, but I don't know how to find it because I can't go to dirtbiketest.com since you killed the site.
That's a watch only as of right now. We got to cater to the younger audience because they're clearly the ones buying the entry level dual sport bikes.
Yeah, who is buying the entry level dual sport bikes?
There are a lot of re-entry riders, which might be a distinguished gray-haired guy.
Yeah, I'm saying, how old is a re-entry rider?
He's well past 50, and there's an amazing number of women riding these what I'll call entry level dual sport bikes, and it's really, really good to see, and the bikes are small enough. They
fit smaller riders.
They fit smaller riders, and if you look at how easy the controls are and the size of the levers and lever place, the lever pull and lever placement, they're really appealing to a non-racing rider, and so maybe that's somebody that's coming in and wants an affordable experience, or somebody that's decided that for whatever reason they slowed down riding and quit riding, and then they say, well, I kind of miss that a lot, but I don't want to spend $15,000 for riding just a few times a year, and before you know it, they're on a re-entry bike, and it's great to see.
So, Trevor, did you hear that? It's not the kids.
It's not the. Well, I would say, I feel like I do see a lot of younger, inexperienced riders, I should say,
entry level,
and a lot of them like to go buy fire breathing 450 motocross bikes because they think they need all that power, and then they just crash and they get hurt and they don't know how to actually ride, but their pride and ego gets in the way. They think they need the fastest bike out there.
Yeah.
I feel like I see that a lot with people my age.
You mean that make bad decisions, people your age?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like not fixing websites and stuff, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Deer Tracks 123 says the suspension is horrible on both. He's talking about your KLX and your CRF. He says Race Tech $250 solves the problem.
Maybe I'll have to go spend money at Race Tech.
Yeah, they're not a sponsor of the show, so can't say. I mean, if they would, we could definitely do that $250 mod. I don't know what for $250. What could you do to those bikes? Like springs, maybe of emulator.
I
on the
wouldn't
fork.
even say springs.
Springs are that. Yeah, I don't.
Springs alone would be a couple $100.
Yeah, I would say at least 200. I mean, yeah, you could probably get fork springs for 150 and a rear shock spring for 100. No way.
100?
Yeah, no way. No, so I don't know what you can do for $250. So he's a liar. But
stickers.
Todd Smith tells him, and yet they finished top 10 overall. It wasn't a race, Chris.
Wasn't a race.
It wasn't a race, Chris. But
No,
they're claiming they're fully
race.
claiming top 10s in this thing on stock suspension. I told Trevor so Trevor didn't believe me. I don't know why he doesn't believe me. And I told him, I said, you need to start testing some of these entry-level bikes, different kind of things, because people are going to, he's like, nobody wants to read about that kind of stuff. And yet his highest, all these views, he's telling me how it's going to surpass my biggest test. And he's actually right. He's on the way.
No way.
Yeah. So
I'm only a million views behind.
Yeah. And then Terra Recon says, you want to read that, Chris? This one here?
The point of them writing these stock was to see how the bikes would do. Pretty awesome considering both the terrain and the competition and dedicated enduros they were up against and finished in the top 10. Fixing the suspension was not part of their plan. If it was, their test purpose would have been pointless.
Trevor, how much did you pay Terra Recon to write that for you?
I don't know, but I like this person a lot.
Yeah. What's up with have you got a DRZ4 coming? Because everybody's looking forward to see the review of the DRZ4S and the KTM 390 Adventure R, which we've already done. And he's probably talking about the new one. How's that?
How's that?
Yeah, how's that? How would you know, right?
Yeah, rumor has it it's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
we'll have to see it in the test.
Hey, Trevor, how's that?
I think it's great.
Okay, good. What about the Reju Adventura 703 Rally? Do you know about this bike?
I don't know about this.
Was that one of the tests you were trying to get up on that dead website, dirtbiketest.com?
Yeah, I was just hitting publish when the site went down.
So anyways, yeah. And then Mike Schulp says, now that was a test. And then somebody else said, thanks for the video. You're getting a lot of good comments. But hey, I did this video called Today in the Shop #2. And he says, how about a link? I don't see it anywhere. It's because it's hidden. I don't know how he got that. How are you commenting on a video that's unlisted? Let's see. The cameraman offer still stands. Oh, somebody's going to come and wants to work for me as a cameraman. That's because he didn't like my chest video. Here's the one I wanted to talk. A Marina N897 says he's talking about my adjusting the float bowl level inside of a carburetor. And it says, great video, clear and concise. Thanks, I needed this. So I'm going to just do a quick instant reply. And it said, glad it helped. So that means I used AI today, Trevor. Okay, well, enough beating up on you, although it seems like I was complimenting you. Although Josh Krause says about your conquering the Big Bear. Y'all beat the piss out of those bikes. I love how you say they let you borrow them. Laugh out loud. Now worth half the MSRP.
I think on the Honda, they ended up replacing the frame after that.
Really?
Yeah, one of the foot peg mount or something got a little smashed in.
Uh-huh.
And Ryan said the frames were super cheap or something, so they got a new one and replaced it.
Well, that's not very nice to destroy a frame.
I guess.
How super cheap would a frame be?
I don't know. He said it was. I can probably look it up right now.
Well, wouldn't you just? And I'm thinking about this. Like, if I bent a foot peg mount or something like that, I just cut it off and weld a new one on. I mean,
It's like it wasn't like that. It was. I can remember seeing it after the ride. It's like a small hole in the bottom of the frame.
I had
I
XR4. I had
like-
XR400s that like lived their life like that.
I mean, I wasn't super concerned about it, but it's almost like a stand or something goes in it because it was below the foot peg.
Huh. So it was like kind of a non-functional part.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing in it. It was just an open hole.
I would have just a little bit of JB Weld.
Well,
Just JB Weld and don't say anything. No, not really. So here's a good comment that I always get. Do you want to read this one, Chris?
Okay, from Joseph Jones Z3W. Great content as always. A bit off topic, but I wanted to ask. I have a Safe Pal wallet with a USDT, and I have the seed phrase: alarm, fetch, chum, bridge, exercise, tape, speak, race, clerk, couch, crater, letter. How can I transfer them to Binnacle?
Bennett's? Yeah.
And I have no idea.
This question was directed towards you, Trevor.
I'm not up to date on my crypto right now.
Yeah, no, that's a bot generated question. They just threw a lot of words in there, but now you can see how Logan used to suffer trying to read some of this stuff because they just decided to get a bunch of words: alarm, fetch, chum, bridge, exercise, tape, speak, race, clerk, couch, crater, letter.
Good for them.
Yeah. Okay. So just so you know, what we're actually probably doing is they're trying to record our voices, and if we say those words, then they can have a bot come and call my mom and ask her for money.
Well,
Yeah.
see, I'm developing that because I'm the sound guy, and I'm doing voice prints, and so like a fingerprint,
Right.
And then I'm going to plug that into AI and have AI track down and shoot all of those telemarketers. Just kidding.
Yeah. Flying Brian says another great show, Jimmy.
How much did you pay him?
I used to pay him a lot. He used to work for me. he's probably just hedging his bet in case he needs to have move back out here to Prump and have a job or something like that. I think that's the same Flying Brian. I don't know. A lot of Flying Brians out there. Let's see. And here's Tara Ricon says again, if you want to make someone do something you think they should do, not or cannot do, tell them they can't do it.
That's a good way to do it.
It's always worked with me. There's something about us kind of people, Trevor. You know what? You know what I was thinking just then? There's no way you can fix that website. You're not smart enough.
You're right. I'm not. So you should get someone else to do it.
Okay. Okay. So that's it for our YouTube comments. If you want to comment on our videos, go ahead and we'll get back to you. We won't answer them individually. We don't have time for that. We like to just do them on this show. It makes this show seem more important, like it is. So with that, Trevor, I'll let you get back to coding.
I had a comment for you, Jimmy.
Oh, okay.
I actually listened for like a couple minutes earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys were talking about the Star team running the old swing arm on the Yamaha.
Right.
I believe the only difference is it's like an extra 15 or maybe 25 millimeters longer.
Okay.
So that's why they run it.
See? That's why we have the experts. Because
Experts.
what I really don't know, if I don't, I try not to make it up, but I try to surround myself with smart people, Trevor, as you've noticed.
Yep.
And then that way I can just regurgitate what they say, and then I look like a smart person. So
I'm taking notes.
Okay, yeah, keep making me money is what I always say. Line up some sponsors. Start doing that tomorrow because all the contracts are up. And,
For a website that doesn't work?
Yeah, you just direct them over to the website and say, look at how your ads are working. Okay, well, we'll keep doing this. Let everybody else. We'll let the Woody Test Dirter guy .com take over the internets for us. So, thanks for coming on the show, Trevor. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. See ya. That
was Trevor Hunter. Everybody, Trevor is probably 90% of Dirt Bike Test.
Yep. Well, he's working every day on doing something. Doing something.
Yeah. Can't talk about half the stuff he's doing.
I mean, when sometimes you get mired in administrative stuff and future plans, and you just don't get to ride your dirt bike enough.
I was working on taxes and insurance today, so take that, Trevor. He was listening to the show. I can't believe he actually told me that. He's usually just so mean to me because I'm like an old person. You know how when you're a kid, you're mean to the old people? The good thing about that is when he's my age, he'll regret it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Troy Hicks. No, let's see. The current KTM 250, 350 are super similar. He's talking about the EXC, or even the SXs and stuff. They look like they're super similar. They are not. They're two different motors, and it's crazy because they look so similar. I know that because I was shown how much different they are. So yeah, they're really not that similar, I don't think. Or at least there's definitely an evolution change between one and the other. Like the 250 was newer the year before, a year or two before the 350, and maybe they were able to downsize the 350, but I know they were quite a bit different when I saw them all torn apart. Hornis Turner has a question, or was he a statement? There he is. This one right here.
That's why you get away with a lot of stock internals when modifying a 250 SXF or a FC 250, quality parts and designed to share with 350.
I'm doubting that. I'd have to talk to somebody who's way more familiar with that, but I believe that they went for lightening up everything they could in that 250 motor, and it's not a 350. It's not the same stuff, even though the race 250s would make the power of a 350, a stock 350, easily. So, Southwest Trails and Wheels.
Yeah. Has Trevor ridden a Stark? We know Jimmy hasn't.
I don't know if Trevor's ever ridden a Stark. I didn't ask him that. I call him back, but he's busy working on the website right now. Troy Hicks says, I love that re-entry riders buy that KTM 500s. Those bikes go on sale so cheap after the first dirt nap. I haven't seen that yet. Actually, what I've seen is the prices on KTM 500s right now that are less than what I paid for my used ones with like 5,000 miles on them 2 years ago, like by a good margin. Actually, I could get a brand new 300 for more than I paid for my 2019 300 in 2021. Yeah. Let's see. Honda increased the dampening on the 25 CRF 300L. Did they? And then Victor. Uh-oh. Do you want to take this question?
Good old Victor. It will be hard for my wife to transfer the sandwich making skills to an entry-level dual sport. I've seen what she does with her SUV wheels when she parks.
I'm not sure. Hard for my wife to transfer the sandwich making skills. Oh, to go from sandwich making to entry level dual sport. Yeah. Let's see. Troy says I make internal parts for the KTM 350 motors and lots of similar. Okay. I could see maybe. Yeah. I'd have to. If you make internal parts for me, you know more than I, because I don't make internal parts for motorcycles. But I did get a Husaberg gear from Germany today, and I know somebody that's really happy about this. Me, because I'm going to go ride that thing. Have you ever seen? I got to show you that. Have you ever seen a primary gear just crack?
Yes, I have.
What would it cracked right at the keeper, right where the keeper is, which would indicate to me that maybe at some point it came loose.
Probably came loose, and there is some technology with gears where they're actually made out of powder. Seriously, they're compacted powder, and some of my good friends in the racing transmission side of the world, cutting gears is an art, but sometimes you need to run something in. So you'll either print a gear, which is scary, or you'll make them out of powder, and that's scary too. But when you're trying to figure something out with a rapid prototype, I'm not saying that you've got a rapid prototype product, but maybe they printed a few of them to get them through.
So, could you because it looks like it looks like a gear that's been how would they would pour it and forge it,
yes,
and then machine it but the cracking, I'm just trying to think of like what type of a load, or how would that force cause that gear to just send, and it didn't blow up, it didn't break luckily, but it did make some noise. I didn't hear it. I was told not to start the motor. And, but I popped that thing out there when I took it apart and I started looking at it. I'm like, oh, look at this. Because I thought it was going to be something in the kickstart mechanism or something back there, and it ended up being this primary gear. But
a stress fracture, that may
just
have,
could be just a bad piece of material.
Now, little cracks grow up to be big cracks.
Right.
And so for some reason it had a weak spot, and it expanded.
You know how much power a Husaberg 650 makes?
Not near enough. Not as much as a Stark.
Oh,
Want to bet?
Yeah, no, I won't bet you that it doesn't. But which one would you rather ride? Well, I don't know. You'd rather plug it into the wall and then ride off into the sunset in your quiet little haze. There's like, Chris, I tell you what, if I put that thing back together before you leave tomorrow, I'd let you take it for a little rip down the street, just roll it on and feel the amazing torque of the Husaberg 650.
I've ridden them, and it's ladies and gentlemen, it's addictive. And for when that came out, think about how old that bike is and how good it is. So there's some pretty smart people that figured some things out, and then they laughed when nobody else could work on them.
Well, the amazing thing is that they run like that, but you just know it's a ticking time bomb. And luckily Ray, who is the owner of this bike, Ray stopped when it made the clank, because these things, I ride mine, and every time I ride it, I know it could explode, and there's no fixing it. It'll be one of those horrific pictures. I'll have to take pictures of it and show it on the internet and tell everybody, don't buy one of these, because look what could happen. And maybe I could crush the resale value of those things. Then I could buy up the parts in order to fix it.
Well, Jimmy, you realize what we're going to do with that blown up Husaberg sometime way off in the distant future. We're putting you and it at the Husky Monument.
Oh yeah, me with my Husaberg parts, a bunch of rotten old crap. The Husky Monument is getting pretty crowded out there. There's already two of me out there, by the way. There's two Jim Lewises already there.
Oh, well, we're going to put you someplace else. We're probably going to put you at the truck stop.
Someplace like that. Okay, so moving right along on the show. Hey, thank you everybody for joining in and having a motorcycle chat with us. Again, you can if our website was working, you can always go check out other stuff at
dirtbiketest.com.
Oh, I was just not going to say anything for a long time and pretend just like that was our website where there's nothing there.
Okay.
You can go there. Hey, really helps if you make comments on our videos, kind of like this. If you share it, I wish that I actually need to make some shorts out of these, like some little clips of the amazing moments during this show that you could easily share with your buddies. And if you have a friend that's asking you stupid motorcycle questions, send them to us, because I will honestly answer them honestly. And I'll honestly tell them probably what you want to say, but you want to stay friends with them. And I can help that. I can say what you were going to say to them, and then they'll hate me and not you. So just remember this. When your buddy's asking you a question, go, oh, hey, I got go check out this Tech Talk Taco Tuesday show and ask that dude. He'll know the answer, because I do. 9 out of 10. We got the questions from YouTube. The questions from Facebook. We're gonna check this. So I showed Chris a little video of me wearing my camera. So we're working on this new show called Today in the Shop. It's almost finished, but I just need some help. I need a lot of help. That's different. And I'm gonna go ahead. I'll go ahead and play a little clip from this, and let me see if I can make this work here.
Not Yamaha Blue.
I'll scroll through this thing here.
I think it's unicorn poop blue. It's metallic. It's pretty awesome. It's got a lot of color to it. But anyway, so back to the KTM 500. So if you have any questions, you ask them in the chat. I can go over and check those questions as we're going along, and I will show you where we are with this. So the bike had a knock, and the knock was RPM dependent, only under a heavy load, and I just didn't feel comfortable anymore. The bike has, I have to go check this right now, 12,000 miles and 446 hours on it, untouched. I checked the valves a couple times in that time. I didn't have it. I bought it with about half that miles on it, and basically did nothing else. This knock, wasn't sure. A lot of people said it was the clutch dampers, but it was not, because I replaced these and it didn't change. And so I thought it was something in the top end, and here's where I'm at with this. So pull it apart, and this is so we can look inside of the cylinder right now, and hopefully you can see the ring gap right there. This can be up to, it's funny, there's a little bit of debris in there, but this ring end gap in there, which I'll slide the piston in there and do it. You're supposed to check it 7 millimeters from the top. Actually, I don't know if you're supposed to do that at 7 millimeters. I think you can do it almost any place. The piston slap is 7 millimeters. But this, I think we measured it last time. It was something like 0.4 millimeters. We did it, but that's totally acceptable. Everything in this cylinder looks really good. So wasn't the ring. What I thought it might have been, and I was kind of expecting.
And I'm going to pause that right there, Chris, because what we did is I took Chris out to the shop because I said I wanted to have what do we call these? I wanted to have live aids inside of here. So here's the piston that we were talking about, and this is how you learn things. You show some of your friends that have good mechanical skills some things, and Chris told me something about feeling the rings. And so when we're going through the process here, so he said, do you have the ring we could feel? And so kind of explain to everybody what you told me there.
Okay. To back up just a little bit, the ring in gap, there's a formula for that, which is based upon the diameter of the bore. It's top secret. Can't tell you all that. You have to learn it from somebody that that's old.
It's written right on the sheet that came with the Wiseco piston.
Yeah.
It's amazing that it's actually right in there, and then that formula actually correlates to the exact numbers that are in the KTM owner's manual for that particular bike. So I just want to give away all your secrets, but keep going.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest secret is read the instructions. But what, Jimmy was showing me this, and the first thing I do is I get the piston ring and I start seeing how sharp it is, whether it be the top or the bottom edge. And rings usually have a bit of a chamfer on them, and so when that chamfer has been worn away, the edge gets sharp, and you can kind of see if the rings are excessively worn. And there's some other telltales.
So the sharper they are, the more worn.
The more
they are.
More worn they are because you've gone past the chamfer on the ring edge. And what wears out a ring? It's always the oil. It's always the oil guy's fault. It's never dust or dirt.
Chris, by the way, is an oil guy.
And so. It's never the air cleaner guy or the air filter oil guy
or the guy who installed the air filter.
Yeah, it's never him. But when you start looking at when I have to do a forensic or something on it, you'll see old school guys feeling the edge of the ring, and it's like, well, why is that worn? And the diesel guys will say, oh, that's fuel dilution. You're blowing fuel down. You're washing the ring. Washing the ring dry, and it's scraping against the bore. Well, that's a true statement. So, I when I look at this, I go, well, okay, the piston's a little bit worn. It kind of specced out almost okay, but it's a little on the sharp side.
So the ring was well within. It was, I think, like I say, it was 0.4 millimeters, and the maximum gap is actually a millimeter on the KTM piston ring. I'm pretty sure. I'm just remembering off the top of my head the numbers, but it was a lot wider than I thought. And when I put that ring in there, I go, ooh, it looks too good, because I pull it apart, and I mean that looks really, really. I mean, I've not cleaned the top of that piston off, and there's no buildup at all on it, and that's been run on PMEX and whatever perump gas you get out here at the station that everybody seems like they have problems. I get gas there all the time, so in this video, and we'll watch it in a little bit here, because I actually started measuring the piston slap, the skirt to cylinder bore with a feeler gauge, and people in the videos commenting that that's not how you do it. How can you measure the thing? And they're like, you should use a bore diameter tester and very, very expensive tools. And I say multiple times in this video even when I'm tearing it apart, because it's all done live, and it's kind of how I sort of do things in the shop. I just sort of, it's from years of experience of learning how to do these things, and it's meant to a wider audience that, maybe you don't have the best shop and the best set of tools, and you're not building a race motor. I mean, for me, this motor, the next thing it will do is will take me the entire length of the Baja Peninsula, probably shortly after I do 4 or 5 days of rally training with this one Ricky Brabeck guy. So we're not exactly in the most convenient locations for me to have a problem with my bike. Hence why I took it apart, because it was making a noise I wasn't comfortable with. So back to I'm sitting here telling you how to use the tools that you may have, a $9 feeler gauge from Rocky Mountain, MCATV. By the way, if you're going to buy that gauge, why don't you click through the link on Dirt Bike Test? If it worked, you could click through the link, and we might get a little commission on that, which helps us, stay in business. So I'm telling you how to measure it. People are telling me not to do it right. And Chris is telling me, you don't even measure it. you can just feel it.
Now you can put a piston in the bore and rock it back and forth, and you'll develop a feel for how much clearance is too much, and then you use the tools that you have.
I did, and I did. So after I took the piston out, put it all, set it down on the bench, took the piston out, popped the rings off of it, checked the ring in gap, because that was the first thing. I'm going to go, this is going to tell me whether it's really worn. And the next thing, with the piston with the rings off of it, I took it in there and I rocked it. I'm like, God, it's not that bad, but I don't really know. I haven't done a 500 for a while. I don't really know what that rock feels like, but I would take it and go, tick, 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 tick. I go, God, I'm thinking about that noise at high RPM. Could that be the noise that I was hearing? RPM. Yeah, could that be the noise that I'm hearing while I'm riding up a sand dune? And then I didn't do it, but then we touched the oil ring, which is really sharp.
Really sharp.
And this is just using kind of like a learning, learning. So now I'm learning a trick from a guy who's teaching me some cool stuff that, why in all my years nobody's ever told me this. I watched a really neat in-depth video on rings on YouTube. Some guy went down the rabbit hole on rings, and he talked about the angles on them and the different bevels in different places, and really cool. But he never talked about feeling it either. I think he was, he just talking about the rings in general. But so I didn't know what sharp felt like, and I felt, the lower ring, and I'm like, hey, is this too sharp, or what's this? And he's like, oh yeah, that's pretty sharp. Like it's like a razor blade. If you run your finger across it at 90 degrees to it, not bad. Go along the edge, bad. That's that it might start cutting you. But I didn't know what it felt like. So what do we do?
We had a little discussion, and we played with it, and then said, yeah, we felt it, and we took a look at it, and then
we went and got the new one.
We got the new one.
Felt the difference between a new one and the used.
And here's a trivia question.
For me?
Yeah, for you.
Okay.
What's the hottest part of the piston? It's the ring.
Yeah.
The ring is
because of all the friction.
All the friction, and it gets hot. And some of the guys, when I was coming up, a long time ago, they're telling me how hot the ring gets, and being the oil guy, that's kind of important to me, because if the ring is getting just 800 degrees or so, it's going to carbonize the oil, which is going to turn to ash, which is going to be abrasive, and it's going to stick the ring, and I'm going to get the blame for it.
Oh, it's the oil guy.
And some of the smartest guys on that, I learned a tremendous amount from the good folks over at Cosworth when they're down in Torrance, because they, the U.S. guys learned a fair amount from the Formula One guys, and when they came over here and they said, okay, us Cosworth guys, we're gonna build some NASCAR motors and go beat up on the good old boys. And first thing they found out is in their qualifying best case scenario on their engineered stuff, they were only about 50 horsepower lower than the other guys. And they go, oh, experience. And that's what I'm telling you, experience. And I'm looking at this, and you say you don't use good gas and all that. I was looking at this piston in the light. There is not one indication at all of pre-ignition.
No,
or
that was so. This is a crazy thing. This is a stock 21. I think 20 or 21. I don't know. They're the same. KTM 500 EXE, reed valves in. The only modification is to an FMF slip-on. So mostly, then I've been trying different stuff. So I would say they're mostly Qs. So, and I've been using different end caps and some different internal things inside of it. But but not the stock muffler. But it had the stock muffler on it for a long time because I didn't have the muffler I was running. But I'm kind of blown away because some of the older ones I took apart, my 2016 earlier ones, had a lot around, kind of right on the little edges where the cutout for the valve is, like right in
the pockets. Yeah.
And when you started asking me about the hottest part, I was starting to think the center of the piston was kind of my thing, and then I'm going, well, maybe not, because there's so much area for it to disperse the heat. And then and then I was thinking, oh, maybe it's a trick question, because maybe it's something under the in some player in the underneath the base, because I've seen burn marks, especially on my 2-stroke pistons. A lot of times you'll see a burn mark up on the top of on the backside of the dome.
Yeah,
in other words,
the burn mark. When I was doing a lot of 2-stroke stuff, and we'll talk about 2-strokes here in a bit, I think. You can tell how fast the guy's riding. You turn the piston upside down. If he's got a little bitty, if he's got a little bitty burn mark, yeah, he's good. But a fast guy, and that
burn mark's all big.
Burn mark's all big. It's like that guy's running sustained temperature for a long time, and when you start getting that burn mark and the oil residue, it's like, okay, well, as long as everything else is good, if the burn mark's real big and there's no detonation and no scuffing, the ring isn't too sharp, oil's doing its job. And if there's scuff marks or they're holding the piston, well, then the oil guy needs to up his game.
Yeah, scuff marks like this one.
Yeah.
You know how that got there?
It's custom.
No. Yeah, well, I customized it. It had the bike had this thing. It's called a it's an oil injection system on that bike.
Yep.
And the oil injection system comes with a light that lets you know when the oil in your oil injection system is low.
Yep.
Well, my light was always on because it was faulty. The sensor was faulty. So the guy operating it didn't put the oil in the bike, and then it went like that. So that's what happens when your light's on, even though it's always on.
Yeah.
I called the person and said, I need a new thing that makes this light work properly, at least a week before that happened. So I'm going to absolve myself from all the blame.
Well, you got to have oil in there.
Yeah. Hey, got a quick question for you, Chris. Curly Stoker says, Senior Chris, 88 ethanol free is widely available in my area. 91 ethanol free at one specific location. I ride a 300 2-stroke. My wife just got in bed and said, Jimmy, I've missed him. I'll bet he misses me too. Anyways, back to octane. Octane, ethanol free versus purchasing higher octane like a 98. Pros or cons to all of that? Thanks, Curly. I really hope your wife didn't say that, but you're lucky that Chris is here.
Okay, octane resistance to knock. So, knock is caused by air fuel imbalance, and the higher the octane, the more cushion you have to prevent pre-ignition or detonation, and they're not the same. So, this is kind of a but question. If you're at high elevation and you've got 88 octane fuel and relatively low compression, I would go with that. But if you're at sea level and high compression, well, I definitely go with the higher octane. Looking at what the compression ratio is and the manufacturer's guidance on octane rating would be a good way to go. But on a 300 2-stroke, if providing it's relatively stock, the lower octane fuel should be just fine. Going with the 98 octane fuels, when you start going that direction, very often you'll wind up with either leaded fuel or something that's oxygenated, and sometimes that just kind of burns a little bit too slow, and that can generate a fair amount of extra heat for you. So, you source the octane of the fuel to match the engine, and you also have to look at the other specifications on the fuel, initial boiling point, and some of the distillation properties, and that's what I get paid for with some of the race car stuff. I've got some teams that I work with, and they go, "What do we do?" I said, "Well, what are you doing?" And they go, "Well, I'm doing this, and this."
What's the end goal?
And I really like playing the fuel game, and I really like national championships, and I really don't like blown up motors. So I work pretty hard at using my knowledge, and I'm kind of conservative on blowing up somebody's motor. So I usually kind of hedge my bet, and on octane I try to go a little bit higher than the demand, because I know the guy's going to have played with the timing and leaned it out, or
when you're dealing with stock vehicles, most of the times the manufacturers are testing with stock fuels.
Yes.
And they have a safety range built in.
Absolutely.
Like they will try to get some, we'll call it lesser quality gas to run it through to make sure that just isn't going to cause huge problems. Although they don't test that way normally. They test with good quality fuel, something that's consistent. I know this. And, so two things here. Kind of speaking to the 88, and the thing that strikes me is like ethanol free, because we don't get that often, out here, Nevada, California. It's kind of a more northern sort of a thing. And I'm you can speak to this as well. I'm not like afraid of ethanol. In fact, I've seen it do some positive things, especially when there is a little bit of water around.
Oh yeah.
It can make it sort of go away, but if you let it sit around, it can make it come back or attract, so it doesn't do any good for fuel lines,
No.
in my opinion, but I'm not like, if I'm storing a bike, at that point, you weren't too low of a volume on that? Is it working? Oh, you don't need it anymore. Yeah, we're not going to talk to Trevor Ken, that guy. I think I fired him already. But I mean, yeah, it's good and bad with everything. But I've not, if I'm going to let my bike sit, I'd rather have ethanol free fuel in it for sure.
Agreed.
If I'm going to be riding it a lot, doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Sometimes the ethanol is it's a reasonable choice. And when we're doing tuning, you got to be able to have a setup, whether it be a map that you're happy with, or old school jetting, where you have some cushion in there, and when you need fuel, you're not addicted to the moon juice and say, well, my bike won't run on that because I've got it tuned, for something else. And so that's a big consideration if you're going to have a good middle of the road setting. And remember, the octane and between high octane, low octane really is the appetite of the engine. And
you can't whatever you have to keep using that stuff. If you want to pay for your 100 octane low lead, or pay for your 110 special race gas stuff, or you want to throw some junky gas in it because you're cheap. I mean, I'm just 91 all the time, whatever, run it in all my stuff, and I don't worry about it. I don't have any problems. And like I said, when I'm jetting something or I'm tuning something, I tune it with that little bit of cushion in there. So if I do have to run 87, I can run 87, but I won't run the bike that hard. I'll listen for a little detonation. And I know that this bike had a lot of what's the Magna? What's that's the good stuff in Mexico. What's the cheap stuff? The Nova.
Nova.
It's just the regular. Yeah, just the regular. There's a lot of stations down there where you cannot get this, and this bike is gulping it 5 gallons at a time. And we were riding down the beaches, and it was like going pinned. No, not 10/10. I was 3/4. So, and it did make some noise. It definitely made some noise sometimes. It was like, oh, that's a shit load of gas, work the throttle different. So, Ed Santon says he's getting a small engine non-ethanol gas at Home Depot.
Yeah, the small cans of gas. That's I actually use that in one of my old bikes, just because I don't like what the new fuels do to my Bultaco Alpina fiberglass gas tank. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna go plunk my trials bike just because I'm feeling nostalgic, and then that only lasts about 30 minutes, and I'm done with that.
Yeah.
But it's like I'll get a can of that and mix it up, and it doesn't dissolve my fiberglass, and I'm happy with that. And I drain it out, and I put it back in the can, and I put it in my chainsaw, and I go ahead and use that in my chainsaw, and it's like I'm good with that. But if I leave current pump gas in for more than a day inside my fiberglass gas tank, it gets spongy. It gets pliable. And my 72 Bultaco Alpina, you don't just run down to the Bultaco store and get a new gas tank. And so I really like that bike for a lot of reasons. None of them are very healthy reasons, but get the whatever works for you, and the special gas is fine.
And we don't want to get too deep in chemistry here with Victor, but Victor says you can also wash your gasoline with water.
Yeah, and there's yabbits and rabbits. The yabbits are lots of variables, and rabbits you can never catch them. So
yeah.
So when you do
flush the ethanol out with the water.
Flush the ethanol out.
What other stuff from the water are you adding into the? Is your gas now getting fluoride, and that might be bad for its?
It all floats. it all floats to the bottom, or it sinks to the bottom. The gasoline is lighter than water, and so the gas will float on top of the water, and so when the water goes through, it absorbs some of the alcohol, and that goes to the bottom, and so now you have watery alcohol on the bottom, and then you'll have a little bit of cloud in the middle, and then you'll have some fairly clean. You'll have some fairly clean gas on top, and I've actually washed particulates, mud, and seawater out of gasoline when I was in Puerto Escondido, Mexico, and there was a gas shortage. I added water to the gas to help it sink the mud so I could filter the top half.
Yeah. Because you didn't have a good quality. You didn't. I mean, they make some really good filters now. Some membranes that you can run your gas through, and it takes out water, and it takes out all kinds of. It's amazing. You think you have clean gas? I've got one of these that I run gas through every once in a while just to see how bad it is. And it's amazing how dirty it's a nice clean white thing, and the thing comes out completely brown, and then there's usually a little puddle of goop at the bottom, and you go, "What's that?"
You don't want to know.
But
you can't source one of those at the AutoZono.
What AutoZono?
Oh, yeah, the AutoZono.
You get some good fish.
Oh, but I mean, when you're desperate and you've got to get fuel, you're challenged. You become creative, and you can wash the some of the alcohol out, and you can actually wash salt out, and palm fronds and sand, and the hardest thing to filter out is diesel. When you got diesel mixed in with gasoline, that's a problem. But anyway, we don't need to go.
Yeah,
let's crank along, and you know.
Hey, so one other thing you definitely wanted to talk about when you came in here was some of what we're going to call the Euro 5 emissions regulations, which are evolving into some of the products that we're going to be seeing now. I know that the vast majority of people are completely scared and figure it's going to ruin everything. I say that it's going to change some things. I don't think it's going to ruin much. But what do you say as an expert in this field?
Okay, the Euro 5 emissions are versus the we're trying to measure emissions, and so there are different test procedures that are used, and so the Euro 5 the European test procedures use a different drive cycle. It's faster. It's the treadmill. You have to spin the treadmill faster, which gives you a different emission signature because the engine is running at a different RPM than what the EPA or the CARB, the North American emission drive cycle is. So we're kind of getting into some more global harmonization, which is, on one hand, it's pretty good. But the targets, the emission, the emission levels that we're tasked with trying to meet, it's more stringent, and there's some more diagnostic.
Isn't warm up kind of one of the things that they're really trying to clean up is when these bikes start up?
Oh yeah. The first, the drive cycle mimics taking your dirt bike across town with a cop behind you, and you don't have a driver's license, and maybe there's a warrant for you. So you're being real careful. So the emission test, there is no warm up period. The bike is cold soaked for 12 hours. It's strapped on the dyno. It sits in there overnight. And then when the buzzer goes off, the test starts, you start it and you go. And it's an urban drive cycle, so it's low RPM, low speed, no wicking the throttle, no warm up, and in that mode, of course the engine isn't efficient. It's not up to operating temperature, so it's dirty. So when you're looking at cleanliness, it's very possible to fail the test in the first 5 minutes, and there's no coming back from that. And that's because the catalytic converter hasn't come up to temperature. The cat hasn't lit off, and we're not talking about lighting the cat off.
Yeah, I got a cat right here. Let's light this cat up.
Yeah, and so
follow Selma on dirtbiketest.com. Smile, look at
and so the warm up, the warm up is critical. That's where idle speed and everything matters. And so, I'm not afraid of the Euro 5 things. I don't, I know that some of the technology is very foreign because there's some onboard diagnostics that come into play, but in reality, the horsepower per cubic centimeter may change a little bit because they're leaner and they're cleaner, but that's kind of why you see motorcycles that we used to have conventional engine sizes, 250s, and the emission control stuff here. Well, a 250 ran like a 185, and so now they're making a 250 300 cc, so a 300 runs like a 250 used to, but they're cleaner. They go further on a tank of fuel. They're a little bit more complicated, but we've part of the emission strategy is we went from carburetors to fuel injection, and some people say, I'll never I'm never going to fuel injection. And then there's a lot of us say, man, I've changed too many pilot jets in my life. I like fuel injection because I can tune it and I never have to clean a jet.
Oh yeah. I'm there with you.
And so looking at the new emission targets, we're going to see some changes. It's going to be harder on the little guys that can't quite get there. But
as far as being smaller manufacturers that just don't have access to that technology right away.
Well, they have access to it, but a lot of them are price sensitive. You know,
Okay.
you can buy a Nissan ECU and you can program it, and you can buy a good catalytic converter, and you just have to ante up. Some of the guys have product that it's very price sensitive, and the emission the emission requirements has very significant durability requirements affiliated with it. So that's really a challenge for some folks, and on the overall, I'm pretty much in favor of some harmonization. Unfortunately, carb is carb, and they want Euro 5 with a different scoop and a different flavor, and that's a challenge. But they've had to back off a little bit, and so we won't see that in California for a while. But globally, we'll see more Euro 5 vehicles, and the manufacturers will build to a global harmonized standard to a large degree, and it's going to be better for all of us.
And so for this, like, I know the startup is kind of the thing, the early, they're not warming them up. And is that akin to just starting up your bike and taking off and going riding? And then it can't brake because you're doing this. It can't like seize, in other words. So which is kind of could be problematic if you just take off and start riding. But I mean, think about it. We do this all day long in our cars, and the car has the volume to carry these emissions components, or the ability to do different things. And I've heard a lot of stuff about, same things like, preheating cats and different, like kind of like some closed loop systems to store and burn things, and do a lot of, stuff to make them. They're trying to make them like zero emissions, and which is like kind of like that's the pie in the sky impossible gold.
Well, it's a target, and we'll get less emissions. We've made huge progress. But you never know. So, the motorcycles, you have you read the manual and you go, man, this thing, its idle is 1900 RPM or 2100 RPM. It's like, and you start the bike up and it's like, ooh,
why is it revving so high?
Why is it revving so high? And that's to generate heat quickly so that the tolerances can equalize.
Yep.
And you can light off the cat if it has a cat very quickly, and then it starts, it becomes efficient very early on, and by having that high idle, it allows on the larger vehicles that have good oil pressure and good volume, that high idle immediately fills the engine oil galley with pressurized oil right away.
Yeah.
And so the emission test, and one of these days I'll put a video up, showing what that looks like. And it's, it's like a video game, and you look at the drive cycle and you say, man, that's not how I ride my bike. It's like, well, we sit there, we start our motorcycles, and I let my bike warm up long enough for me to buckle my chin strap and put my gloves on and make sure my backpack isn't.
I try to do that sometimes, but when I don't, I mean, I rode 6 days where you had 1 minute to get your bike started, and these are air cooled 4-strokes back before there were 4-strokes, XR250, and you had to start and ride 100 meters in like a minute or 30 seconds. I don't remember what it was, but you got penalized if you didn't.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to ride my bike very carefully right after starting up, right after I'd been sitting in a cold, 30-degree morning and go. But I think on the motorcycle, like the problem is like we have the technology to do all that stuff. Just packaging it is difficult.
It's hard because we want small, lightweight packages, and we just we just don't have much space to put advanced ECUs and vapor recovery systems in our vehicles, and it's a challenge, but you look at how far we've come. We've made huge strides, and I think that's that's kind of indicative of emerging technologies. We're getting smarter, and we're getting there. But you mentioned 6 days, right?
Yeah, I went there a couple times.
Yeah, Can I shift gears just a little bit?
Okay, yeah, let's get off this emissions crap.
Okay, well
Just kidding.
I want to jump over real quick. I'm the sound guy.
The 2 meter max.
Yeah, now noise is a problem. For motorcycles, motorcycle racing, motorcycle recreational riding. Some of the neighbors just surprisingly they don't want to hear us. And I know that's a shock, but some of them just don't appreciate, that much sound. So, we've gotten along with a couple different test procedures, for on highway, and for off highway. We've got an SAE, short proximity test, pretty non-destructive, pretty, very repeatable. But, there are, guys that have decided to, take shortcuts and engineer around the 20-inch test, the SAE J1287 at 50% throttle. They've made countermeasures, so the bikes that pass that test, but they're louder than all get out on the on the racetrack, and that's problematic. And so FIM several years ago said we want to know what it really is, at full rev, full panic mode, and so a test procedure was developed, which is a snap throttle, wide open test, stationary, until the bike bounces off the rev limiter and the sound meter is 2 meters back. And so with that, they come up with a pretty high, a pretty high sound level. And so that's being, it's been introduced. It is a very severe thing to do to a motorcycle, but for a pro level guy who has fresh equipment, his bike should live through that. But if it's an amateur guy, his bike may not live through that.
Just going hitting into the rev limiter.
Stationary.
Yeah. Right. How long do they hold it for?
At least 2 seconds.
Oh, on the rev limiter.
On the rev limiter.
Because wasn't Pro Racing doing a version of this test?
Pro Racing has been doing this test, but
not, I don't think properly.
Well,
I never observed it done correctly from what, if I read the standard and how it was supposed to be done, but I don't remember the time. I thought it just had to, I just thought it had to hit peak RPM.
It has to go there, and it's usually a 1 to 2 second sample. And the reason why that sample is so long is not all sound meters are smart enough to capture a spike. So you have to have multiple spikes to get it. So that's coming forward. And so it's what's used at 6 days, and it's what's used at some of the pro stuff. And when an average guy is going to try to get through, the sound test at Anaheim or Hangtown or wherever they are, the amateur guy who slid a pipe on and he's tuned his engine, very often when he gets to that max RPM and chops the throttle, the bike backfires. It has some after run, and that spike matters. It matters a lot. And so a lot of the guys really struggle with it. They'll put a a corked up exhaust on it, and they'll still fail the test. And they're going, I don't get it. Well, it's because they're not tuned. And also at that kind of RPM, it's wide open throttle. There's a lot of energy. So you've got sound coming out of the engine, out of the exhaust pipe, through the air intake, and rattling the skid plate. And it's a challenge to meet that test method. And that test method, has some other things. It doesn't exactly correlate to some other, predictability. So it's challenging, but it does capture most of the cheaters, the guys who have tuned around the 20-inch test. So,
but in that test now, well, I know that there's ignition maps that do some stuff.
Oh, for sure.
That because if the bike's in neutral when this test is done, like it should be, because you can't do it any other way.
Yeah, there's electronic countermeasures.
Yeah,
and guys are say, well, if you're not cheating, you're not winning. If you're not winning and you're not cheating, you're a loser. And it's like, okay, but the big loser is the tracks get closed. Then everybody's
I'm not disputing that we need to quiet the bikes down. And then rolling back to 6 days. Most amazing thing that I ever noticed was when I went to my very first ISD, just globally how quiet the bikes were. And we were standing at the side of the grass track, and you could have a normal conversation, and guys were racing by. And this was back when they first kind of started introducing, I think it was 96 was the decibels that we had to be at. And they did the half throttle, but they were real serious about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I had to have when I rode my XR250, I had to get a special muffler from Europe. It was the only thing we could get to pass. Al Baker worked on getting this thing, and it still ran good, but it was huge.
It's huge, and so it's a challenge, and we're going to have to adapt to that, and we're going to have to find a correlation. And I know about what the correlation is. I've worked with AMA and for the stationary test, 90.
And Ed's mentioned they make them test in first gear with the clutch held in.
Yeah.
To stop the mapping cheating. Yeah.
Yeah. And
when do they ride in first gear?
Yeah. And so, there's all kinds of things. Now, my opinion on that is to catch the cheaters. You put a couple meters, drive-by meters next to the track, and if you exceed a determined measurement, then you turn off the guy's transponder, and just call it exceeding track limits, and be done with it. But I'm the hanging judge, and so so they.
I think that's a great idea. I have no problem with that. With it, you figure out what the acceptable level is, and this. I mean, when you sent me that sound study, that you kind of projected sound study from our OHV track, which is really good. You say, okay, this decibel at this location equates to this decibel out here.
Yep.
It's pretty simple. It's math. And if you decide that, it's like, okay, around the track, you have a little bit of an error factor and stuff like that. Your bike can't be louder than this at this track. And so before the big jump, you put your thing there, and because that's where you're going to need it, and you're going to be, everybody's going to be on it there, and you can't cheat that.
You can't cheat that.
Because at that point you need power. So you need to make that power with a muffler that's going to make the bike, or airbox suppression or whatever it is. Because if you know this from doing with the Yamahas, a lot of the noise comes out the front of that motorcycle.
Oh yeah, and so and we do we do sound studies and sound projections. That's part of our that's what keeps me.
We're not trying. This is the thing. People got to get in their head. And the two things, we're not trying to kill the fun. We're trying to allow you to have fun. Just a couple rules. I mean, yeah, I know it's always one more rule. Well, this one's pretty simple. Like, if they can't hear you, they're not going to complain about you most of the time.
Most of the time. And so getting back to the 2 meter thing, for years, just before 6 days, I work with some of the teams, and I set up all my expensive equipment, and we help them change, do their pipes and get their skid plates and their air intake. They get their countermeasures down so they can go wherever the international thing is and race. And that's, I like 6 days a lot. I kind of aged out I didn't get to go as a rider, but I've participated as a team and a sponsor in some other areas. But I'm going to make an offer, a little announcement.
Okay, got an announcement.
Okay.
You heard it here first. Tech Talk Taco Tuesday.
Okay, DPS Technical, myself, I'm going to put together some assistance to help the U.S. 6-day guys that want to, they've got a letter of intent and are running some of the qualifiers. I'm going to set up at a few events and help them dial in their package so they don't have a problem in tech. And so I'm gonna get back out there and do some stuff. My good friend Jerry Fousham, he hangs out up at the District 36. We're gonna do some things. I'm gonna provide some really good equipment for us to go out and help these guys contend with the new with what they're going to be experiencing. And
because what was the limit before?
Well,
with the VMAX limit, what were they?
We're going to go to 109. They were 113.
Okay,
and they added they rounded down and they added one, and they
because it was kind of like 115 was sort of the fail, right?
Yeah, and so
that's a ridiculously loud motorcycle.
If I do the math on that, I know that somebody 3,000 feet away, the 450, and I don't care what color the fender is. If it's 115 on 2 meter, the guy at 3,000 feet away, he can't stand on his front porch and have a conversation with his wife or his buddies without you drowning him out. And that's kind of not fair because he doesn't get to ride the motorcycle.
And that's like a kilometer.
Yeah.
That's like a kilometer away for all of our people in Canada.
Yeah, for all of our people in Canada.
They live underground, which is really good because I know the ground absorbs the sound pretty well.
Yeah.
But just so you understand, like that 3,000 feet that's a long ass ways away at 115 decibels.
Yeah.
To be problem.
That's a problem, and that's just one guy. So if there's two guys, I'm going to race you, you're going to race me, and then we're going to get some other who in there. Maybe we're going to it doesn't add up directly. We are going to be a problem, and we don't need problems. We need riding.
And
areas.
sound is exponential when we start going up, correct?
Yeah.
To some extent. This is like Troy says, Prump hates math and science. Well, that's only in schools.
Yeah. So I'm going to do some things. Jerry, I'm gonna reach out to some of my teams and some of my manufacturers that I work with, and I'm going to help them with their 6 days models or their 6 days package. I'm gonna reach out to KTM and Husky and Beta and Rehu and these folks. Say, look, we're gonna be here at this event. You got anything you want us to test with good equipment, honest, unbiased? Bring a stack of pipes, different skid plates, anything you want, and we'll do that. But the goal is to reduce the sound and help the riders and keep our riding areas open, and have a little bit of fun. And so it's going to take me a little while to
hey, and just so anybody know, Chris used to come out, and when I was at Dirt Rider Magazine, when we do like the 24-hour tests and a lot of other stuff, he would set up and let us test all this stuff and make sure that we and it was like the magazine in general was always a little bit on the sound conscious side because we were trying to preserve the sport for future generations. And you hear people complaining about electric bikes right now because they don't make any noise, and they want them to make noise because they can't hear them when they're coming up to pass. And so it's like you're always going to find something to complain about. Mm-hmm. It's like it's not making any noise. I don't like it. It's making too much noise. I don't like it. I mean, some of these are valid concerns, but think about it and you always know that there's a reason why there's some of these rules and regulations and things, and maybe just because it's pissing you off right now, it might be in the future, it might be better. I think bikes sound a lot better than they did 10 or 15 years ago.
They do, and they run better.
Oh, for sure, they run better,
and they're more tractable, and And a stock muffler on most of the higher end, off-road motorcycles, it performs pretty doggone good.
I know this for a fact that the aftermarket manufacturers have a hard time producing slip-on mufflers that perform better than stock. They're having a hard. They may look cooler and they may have better colors and more carbon fiber and all that stuff, but they're having a hard time just slipping on and making more power or better power in that essence. They have to go to complete systems.
Yes.
To achieve that. And now like the FMF Mega Bomb, which the Hemsholtz
resonating chamber.
I'm trying to get the name right. I don't know if I said it exactly right.
Heimholtz.
Right. Now you see that on everything because it's a pre-muffler. It's a really good, it does dampen some sounds, and I feel that it gives it better throttle response at low mid RPMs, just more on and off. When you're on and off the throttle, it just seems like it does something there.
And what does that do, Jimmy? Here's a test. We've all taken, absorption mufflers and great big cores and no end caps. And what does it do? It kills low end, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have any back pressure. The back pressure helps keep the engine running. And so that resonating chamber actually builds some static engineered in back pressure to make the engine run better. And it also kills some sound.
Yeah, but as a side effect.
As a side effect.
Right.
But that chamber is quite effective. And there's different designs. There's tubes inside of a tube or
they're still trying different things. How many holes and where the holes are located and where the holes go into a single chamber or double chamber. Anyway, like it's kind of nuts. So anyhow, Chris is going to help you if you're going to the ISD or if you are trying to design an exhaust system. He can help you out there too. You have one other thing I wanted to talk about: oil.
Oh yeah.
What's the best oil for me to put in my not that I don't know, because and you saw my oil. I don't if you are looking to sponsor the show and you have an oil company, you call me up and you can be my number one main oil like tomorrow. Just send the money first and then we'll talk about how I can integrate you into my program. But you saw my oil collection.
Yep, saw your oil collection.
And it was good, right?
Pretty good.
Why?
Because if you have oil on the shelf, chances are you're going to put it in your motor.
I'm going to have oil in my motor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best oil to have is oil.
Yeah. Yeah. and so
that's what we learned on the first time Chris was in here on this show. And I wish I had a producer, an assistant, they would say, oh, that's episode something.
33 and 34.
33 and 34. Oh, we had to split it in two. It was so long.
Yeah. Well, we did pick on Chris for blowing up your bike. And I kind of deserve that. And then
Duralube.
Oh yeah,
I'm still using some Duralube products.
Wow,
I still have leftover Duralube stuff.
Yeah, and so and then we went from.
Glad you remember this.
Yeah, well,
this is why I record it, so I remember it, or I don't have to.
Well, and so episode 33 and 34. One we talked about oil a little bit, and then we talked about emissions and stuff a little bit, and I really, my schedule worked out. I really wanted to come on episode 233.
And you missed it. I'll change the name of this one.
I tried.
I'll make it 233. Then you just have to keep remembering 33s.
Yeah.
I'll change the other one to something else, and no, I won't. I'll forget by the time I wake up in the morning.
But there's oil technology continues to evolve, and four strokes are going to be with us for a good long time. Two strokes are going to be with us for a good long time, and electrics are going to be with us for a good long time. And I'm always playing with some type of chemistry. And here, not too long ago, I had a really nice electric motorcycle, and I decided to see how much sound difference a chain lube.
Oh, we had this question. Somebody actually typed this in the question here. So go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I developed a procedure to wash the chain, get it clean, run it dry, then put a lube on it, and use really expensive high-end equipment, and did a procedure of 5 or 6 different pulls to wide open. I took measurements in a couple different places, And there is a full decibel difference
In chains.
in chain lubes.
Chain loops.
And I was pretty I had a question. Part of the question that I was trying to answer is from reducing the friction on the chain. Sound is one way to quantify friction reduction, but the drag. Right now we're suffering from range anxiety on a lot of these small electric vehicles,
Right.
and so I believe that if we reduce some of the parasitic friction, they'll go further.
Right.
And so I'm
And this will go all the way to rolling resistance on the tires and all
yeah.
kinds of whether brake drag.
and so we get into the oil question a lot, and
The oil question for tonight is oil injected 2-strokes. So oil injection oil versus that's no oil.
okay, well now
That's so having oil in your mixed in your fuel or mixed in your I want to say fuel in some way, shape, or form, whether it's mixed in the gas tank,
right,
or it's mixed through a tube that shoots it into the engine and it mixes with the gas vapor there. So oil injector oils, is it important to run oil injection oil in oil injected bikes?
Yes. And the reason is an injection oil, an oil that's been designed to go through, an oil injection. Yamaha had this a bazillion years ago called Auto Lube, and so the thing that we get down to is viscosity and it being able to be metered into the engine, at a prescribed rate. And some of the premix oils are higher viscosity oil. They're not pre-diluted. They're not formulated to flow. So you have to shake the gas can. So an oil injection oil with the proper viscosity is quite relevant, because you've got to remember that these educated dribble, the auto lube thing, it's not a lot of pressure. It's going in and it's kind of like the drip and hope. We talked about dip and hope. Now this is drip and hope.
Right.
And so we're hoping that we're hoping that the oil is thin enough for the little oil pump to
pump it,
and then we're hoping that it's compatible with the fuel enough to mix pretty quickly, and then to keep things from going squeak. And I've done a lot of squeaking. And so yeah.
I haven't, for the amount that I ride.
Well, in development, I'm not doing too much in the 2-stroke stuff anymore. My focus has changed a little bit, but leading technology on 2-stroke stuff, you really need to have viscosity and you really need to have mixability, because remember, you have a very, you're dealing with 2% of the equation. 98% is the gas. And
So it's only a little bit that's going in. So can you put can you mix injector oil in your gas, like in your gas can? And will it do the same job, or is it? And this is the question I actually have: is it diluted?
Yes,
it's diluted down so it mixes better. There's more carriers in it.
Well, it doesn't have to be carriers. It could be formulated to be very, very low viscosity, very, very, very fluid, and you get that with some of the more exotic esters and synthetic components.
Right.
And so is it diluted with solvent? I mean, that's where we started a long time ago with outboard oils, the TCW, 2-cycle water-cooled oils. They were cut with 15 or 20% Stoddard solvent. It was mixed, 2-stroke mix, and it was pre-diluted. And so how do you know? Well, you can smell it, number one, or you put it in a vacuum chamber and you perk off all of the stuff and say, what is is the base chemistry. But the oil guys are they're getting smarter. There's a lot of B students out there, few A students, as a matter of fact, that are formulating really, really good 2-cycle oils that mix quickly and are somewhat interchangeable. You can pre-mix them, or you can oil inject, auto lube them. It really depends upon the chemistry that they're using. What ratio would you, if you're going to, what ratio you're going to mix them, and that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother subject. But the oil injection 2-strokes have some advantages, but you got to stay on top of some of the check engine light. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and that's
or it works all the time, and then he doesn't fill the oil back up.
Yeah,
I've done that.
So
I'm pretty happy with oil injected stuff. I have been pretty careful about using oil injector oil in that bike. I haven't thrown my Maxima 927.
No, that would
that probably wouldn't work out too well.
Well,
I want to try it.
Well, do it on a really cold morning.
No, I wouldn't try to fail the test immediately, but I always kind of wonder about that. And then what about mixing oil injection oils? Like, what about you put in some, let's just say Redline 1 week, and then next week you put in some Maxima.
Well, that's good. That's a valid question. But what has happened with the International Standards Organization, ISO? They've made most of the oils are very compatible with each other. So it's not ideal, but it's certainly not the end of the world. And most of them, their root chemistry is pretty similar. There really aren't that many choices.
There's not a lot of stuff in the oil that's going to fight with each other.
Not anymore.
Or it wouldn't come together and then it's like separate out or something weird.
Yeah. And so when you're looking at an oil injection oil, you have to look at the alphabet soup that's on the back of the bottle, and it's ISO L, G, D, or E. D or E. Mm-hmm. And the further down the alphabet, probably the cleaner the oil is as far as deposits. But when you get into that type of chemistry, most of them are very, very compatible with each other. And there are some differences. Sometimes it's a performance difference, and sometimes it's a cleanliness difference, and sometimes it's a lubricity difference. But there aren't any bad ones out there, and so I think that's a that's a thing that we'll have to be smart about.
Yeah.
Don't always keep your oil injection tank
primed. Yeah, full. Yeah. Don't get air in it.
No, air doesn't do much.
So I know on mine, like after I did run it dry and I rebuilt it, there's a little plug I can plug in. It goes and it pumped it right through there. So I pumped a little extra in there just to for the initial startup. My bike was a little loaded up for a bit, but it was fine after that.
Yeah.
Somebody probably owns that bike now. It went back. I rebuilt it, just threw a piston in there. That thing, there was no marks in the cylinder. I just cleaned it up a little bit with the little 400. Fired it right back up, and it was good to go. I mean, that's a testament to some of the build quality, some of the materials and stuff too. I mean, and there was probably a certain amount of oil in there, and just that one spot is what got.
Yeah.
That's where it ran out.
Well, I mean, pistons don't swell up round.
Yeah.
So if you got a tight spot, you got a custom piston.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. So that's remember Mike Young?
Oh, yeah.
He said, look at old Chris.
Yeah.
He's not seen him in years.
Well,
he said he looks good.
Yeah. Mike, good guy. Riding ATKs and Vertimatis.
He rode Husabergs.
And Husabergs. Big gun Mike,
he made loud ass exhausts.
That's
back in the big guns.
Big gun, I miss seeing so many of the guys. my available time to get out and go to some of the races. I've had to take a little bit of time off and doing some other things, and had a little, got a little bit cranked up on too much dust, and so I had to
Stay out of the dust a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I went to King of the Hammers the year just before COVID hit, and I was in the worst dust of my life.
I drug you out there a couple times.
Oh yeah, I'd go again.
Yeah.
But
that is a dust city.
well, I was there for like 9 days.
You need to go to Burning Man.
Well, I'd kind of like to go to Burning Man.
But what you need to do is if you go there and you take a lot of drugs, evidently the dust doesn't affect you.
Well, I thought if you took great big deep breaths, it's like pre-seasoning your.
It gives a protective layer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah. Well, Chris, it's been awesome. We've gone almost 3 hours.
Oh,
like
no.
How long did we go on the original one? I got into my third different kind of tequila here. I got into the Neger. You missed out on that.
I've been shorted.
You try this and tell me what you think of this one. This is some of the special stuff. I know we wanted to get into your Norden 900 and moving some bags around. Should we save this should we can this for another one?
Yeah, we can can it for another one.
Yep.
But
Chris is a little bit of a rocket scientist and likes fiddling with his bikes. So he's got probably almost as many stories as I do, except his are true and based in science. They have numbers to go with them and stuff. Technical drawings, like he sent me technical drawings up here of positioning of bags and different things like that. But yeah, I think it's fodder for another episode.
Well, we can pick this up sometime. But hey, I want to say, thanks for everybody for hanging in and hanging out. Always enjoy coming up and seeing Jimmy. I'm a fan of the show. I value the knowledge that Jimmy and the tribe shares.
I try to pass it along, but I'll apologize now for all the hours that you've had to listen. I mean, all the crap you had to wade through to get to the good parts.
Well, anyway, thanks, and I want most of you guys to keep a quiet exhaust on your motorcycle, and the ones that don't, I'd like him to ride past City Hall so somebody gets sued, so I can go and do the noise abatement and sound study, because that's where I make my money. So.
Yeah, well, I appreciate all the help, and like I said, we're just trying to keep kids on dirt bikes.
Well, that's it. Kids, no matter their age.
Well, I was going to get to that too, because I need to test my kiddo all the time. So, everybody, thanks for hanging out for this long show. It's been awesome. I will see if we make it back next week. All of our sponsorships ran out, so there's really no reason for me to do this, and I should just go riding. But you never know. I'll probably be back here. So, with that, everybody, we will. See you out in the trail. So cheers. Now I got to figure out how to turn off this show. If you liked what you saw in this video, come check us out over at dirtbiketest.com on the webs. We have bike tests, product tests, a lot of fresh dirt, and you can even support us by clicking through our links. Hopefully we'll see you out in the trail.